They suffered stab wounds in the attack and are now being looked after in hospital.
We need to make sure that when people carry out these activities, they feel the full force of the law. People think they can get away with this. The person who firebombed a few weeks ago is out on bail. That's not full force of the law.
This crisis, it's a crisis for all of us.
Who landed in Manchester last
not
night
enough
are now in
to
isolation on
simply
the
say
Arrow Park Hospital
we stand
in the
with Jewish
Meanwhile, a
communities.
French traveller started showing symptoms of the
show it
virus on their
and act
repatriation flight.
And responsibility lies with each and every one
from the
of
World
us,
Health
because it
Organization
is
says
our
they'll
fight
be
too.
retested.
Let's
may
stop
not be even
importing people
associated
from
with
countries where anti-Semitism
hantavirus. Of
is
course,
the norm.
it should
and
be
if there are
checked.
London mayors...
But with age comes many health challenges. That was actually one of the concerns we had with this ship.
There's a warning we're relying on high our mental health. The Mental Health Foundations found self-isolation and doom scrolling as some of the most common coping mechanisms. In football, Arsenal have taken a major step towards their first Premier League title in more than 20 years. They beat strugglers West Ham 1-0 after they had a stoppage-time equaliser disallowed by VAR. Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta welcomed the outcome.
Very brave, but very consistent with what they've been talking about all season. So when I have to be critical...
terror attack. This is an attack on Britain, on the Western liberal democracy and values.
The first politician that uses the word shocking, I might just go and throttle him, because this is anything but shocking. It's the most expected thing is almost overdue, if you ask me. Because, I mean, I just left Israel last week. I thought it would be the last time we were woken up by explosions, but clearly not.
The Jewish community is our community, and their safety is our safety. And we have to make it absolutely clear, robust, strong leadership, and this has to stop, because otherwise it's almost being normalised, and it's terrifying, and we're sick of it. Enough's enough.
Our plan is a complete step change in how we protect communities, moving beyond piecemeal responses to a sustained nationwide effort.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning to you. Welcome to Talk, the home of common sense, of course, and the home of the alarm clock Brit. And you know what? I spent the weekend thinking, what on earth are we going to talk about on The Breakfast Show from 6 o'clock on Monday? Somebody has already texted me and said, we've had a bet how long it will take you to mention that word. Starmer! I've done it. What a few days since we last did it. A very good morning to you as ever, whatever you are doing, Alarm Clock Brit. This is the station that gives you your chance to air your views on the news of the day, and 3 ways as ever to get hold of us. Tommy's in the building. Big Tommy's in, 0344 499 1000, 0344 499 1000. You can send a voice note, of course, to Christian. Get them in nice and early. You can get on there live. You can also text, because I know how to read them now. It's taken me 3 years. 87222, start your message with the word talk. So, here it is, laid out there, on the back of what can only be described as a massacre in the local elections when we went off air last Thursday. The Labour Party losing control of, well, I think 38 councils. They lost over 1,400 seats. Reform, the big gainers, 1,454 seats. They took control of those 14 councils. The Green Party, right, we're out of Purda now. Am I going to have it on him today? He's lied again, Polanski, by the way. We'll do that in a minute. They gained 400 councils. Kevin Badenoch said, we've had a very good day. I'm not quite sure how. They kept hold of Westminster but lost 553 seats. But what that did was that has ignited what many of us have been waiting for months, was that the Labour Party would finally realise that the dud inside number 10 is dragging this country down by the hour. Today, Starmer, who, on the back of apparently a plot to oust him and cabinet ministers openly talking about his incompetence, I mean, there's front, and we'll talk with an excellent paper review this morning, because he's got a great line for you, but there's front, isn't there, and there's belief. But I thought there's been a few low points with Starmer. I thought bringing Gordon Brown back was perhaps down there, followed quickly by, I'm going to be here for 10 years. So I know he doesn't listen because he doesn't like the truth, but if he was listening, I've got a message for you. It's not going to happen. Nobody wants you here, OK? This is him This is him after the biggest drubbing and the most unpopular record of any Prime Minister in history. This was Keir Starmer on Saturday. Take it away.
Let me be clear, these are really tough results. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And we have lost brilliant Labour representatives, people who put so much into their communities, so much into our party and our movement. And the voters have sent a message about the pace of change, how they want their lives improved. Labour's elected to meet those challenges, and I'm not going to walk away from those challenges and plunge the country into chaos.
It's in chaos. The reason it's in chaos is because you're still there. The reason your wonderful colleagues kept their jobs is because you're completely incompetent. Oh, my God, this is going to be such fun today. So, he is making a live speech at 10 o'clock on the... Not on Julia's show, I'm sure they'll take it, but he apparently is going to... This is brilliant. The Labour Party is an optimistic party. Well, optimistic of being completely obliterated when there's a general election. But more importantly than that, I know how to deal with this. Let's put Britain at the heart of Europe. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we voted to leave. Last night, the vultures started. Angela Rayner, I don't know if you know about that, issued what can only be described as a dramatic 1,000-word statement, unleashing a ferocious attack on Keir's record in office, and also demanding a lurch to the left, which was always going to happen. She says, we need Andy Burnham, we need our best players on the pitch. Let him in again. It's really interesting. Whatever you're doing this morning, there's this whole cabal now. So you've got the left, which is Rayner and Burnham, plotting, thinking, we need a bit of time because I haven't paid off the tax man, I haven't got a seat. And then you've got the right, you've got Wes Streeting, thinking, I've been honest, I've told the Prime Minister, I've said I want to be Prime Minister, but only in an orderly way. Yeah, orderly means being anointed because you don't want an election because the Labour members wouldn't vote for you. Backbencher MP Catherine West, I don't know if you know about her, I think she's Canadian. She popped up and said, on Monday, unless the Cabinet find a new leader, I'm going to trigger a leadership contest. You need 81 of them. Will they stick their heads above the... It's an extraordinary, extraordinary day. I keep being told that Labour politicians, Prime Ministers, never get unseated. I absolutely guarantee you within the week this is going to fall like a deck of cards. There's only one person. We did it. This is genius, right? This man was a Conservative minister. This man was the minister to do with Brexit. This man has got so much to say. Steve Baker, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy. What a masterful summary. I mean, I think that Keir Starmer will absolutely have to be dragged out kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
I don't know that Labour MPs will actually have the balls to do it.
Right.
But one thing I'm sure of is the country will be much worse for it. I mean, the civil service, how are they supposed to take the leadership from this guy and his team?
But do you going to get me on my favourite subject at 8 minutes past 6? Do the civil service take leadership from any politicians, or do they just do what they want anyway?
Well, I would say this, wouldn't I?
Yeah.
I've always found that civil servants were very good and did what I asked. When I asked,
I'm going to ask you to repeat an analogy that he gave Christian and I half an hour ago when I set him a very simple question. This is brilliant. I said, why is it that Prime Ministers, even when the game is up, are that blinded to the reality that they come out and say, I'm going to be here for another 10 years?
Because power is a drug.
Yeah.
Prime Ministers are addicts. Somebody once said to me that being a backbencher is like a little sniff of cannabis, and you think, well, that's OK. Then you become a minister and you learn to snort cocaine.
Right.
I'm being metaphorical, of course.
Of course you are, yeah.
And then by the time you're Prime Minister, you're mainlining heroin. This is how it was put to me. I should say I've never taken illegal narcotics of any kind.
So,
but
you know the people that are now singing
addicts.
Keir Starmer, whatever, is it now Keir Starmer's a crack? Not that we're obviously...
Metaphorically.
Metaphorically, we're saying that.
Yeah,
but
that
that's
is the
interesting.
problem.
The power is an...
Well, think about it. I mean, wouldn't you like to just nip along to MI6 and ask them whatever questions you want and be sure of getting an answer? I mean, that's... They can... You know, once Boris knew he was going, he went flying in a typhoon. Being Prime Minister's an amazing job, apart from all the miserable things you have to do. So it's what they've always wanted. Once they're in, they're addicted to it, they love it, and they have to be dragged out by the feet. And I'm just not convinced that Labour MPs will do it.
Straight away, Bill in Cheshire, Starmer's latest reset, he's just admitted that his first 21 months didn't cut it. It failed dismally. The man without a plan has almost touched reality. But no, I have a new plan on the back of his fag packet. The country and the world needs me. No, we don't go. No. And there are Labour MPs jostling for position. I think there was 30 plus. Let's firstly lay out how you see this, because first of all, this speech this morning, which of course will be oblivious to anything that makes sense, is going to paint Labour as an optimistic party, and this will put a dagger right through your heart, put Britain at the heart of Europe.
Honestly, it's such nonsense because he's not changing his red lines apparently. So even if you were on his side, you would say that's never going to work here because they won't let us. They won't let us have what you want from the single market without free movement. And you're not going to commit to free movement. And this is the problem. People keep failing to understand. It's just basic incompetence. What is the EU about? It's about political integration with free movement of people and a single currency. The keeping the pound was always an exemption. Our prime ministers keep negotiating with the EU as if it was a different thing.
Yeah.
And the stupidity of this speech, if he makes it like that, was to be at the heart of Europe, but not at the heart of Europe. And the European Union will hear it, and they've got their own audience to speak to. They will guffaw at him straight out of the blocks.
I said during the election campaign 2 years ago, buddy, I said that the thing for me, in a far less technical way than you've just described, because no, you know more than me, was very simply this: if your tent is so wide that you invite everybody to sit in your tent, when you become the main man, you spend your entire time trying to please all the people all the time and get absolutely nothing done, Steve.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
And that's how it seems.
Well, you've got to build an electoral coalition.
Yeah.
The big problem that these guys have got at the top of all the political parties is they haven't faced up to a great realignment of politics. And it's happened not just in the UK. It's Trump, it's Meloni in Italy, it's India as well, with Hindu nationalism, with Modi. The main axis of politics is becoming identity and culture, not economics. When Thatcher was in, it was all about, are we capitalists or socialists? But for years, there's been this now obviously failing economic model of managerialism. This is Labour's biggest problem. They are the absolute embodiment of the idea that an active state is a good thing, that there should be more government, more regulation, more tax, more spending. Oh, it's madness. I watched some Labour MP over the weekend sitting there proudly, like a good, well-briefed MP is. We need a more active state. It's like, have you not been paying attention all these years? We've had an active state forever. And that's what's failing.
There's almost disillusionment. I don't know if we've got the clip, but Bridget Phillipson was on Trevor Phillips, who does such a good job now. And he literally ripped her a sec. I mean, she looked. She kept talking about, like he does, a reset. So Phillips said, so basically you're accepting that the last 2 years has been a complete and utter waste of time. He had no plan. The woman, what was that woman's name, the chief of staff? Sue Gray. Mm-hmm. She came in to do the first 100 days and had gone on day 93. And what's really interesting about the Labour Party is, for the first 12 months, and I even heard her say it yesterday, the disasters of the Tories. Yeah, the Tories messed up and the Tories at the end had lost the ear of the British public, and I personally don't think they'll get it back in the next 5 years. I think it will be longer than that, which is why you see the growth of the other parties. But she sat there and he talked about immigration, he talked about cost of living, nothing new. These people got into power by default. They got less votes, and people hate me saying this, they got less votes than Jeremy Corbyn got. There's nothing about Jeremy Corbyn in that election against Boris Johnson that I agree with, but I tell you something, he had the balls to stand up and say, there's my left-wing manifesto, and that's what I'm standing on.
Yeah,
Starmer had nothing, man.
Yeah,
nothing.
So authenticity is so important, and people can sniff it when you haven't got it.
Yeah.
Starmer, I'm afraid, is like an empty vessel into which someone else has poured messages which have been polled and focus grouped, and people can tell he doesn't mean anything. Let's not forget, one of his big services to our nation, and it was to defeat Jeremy Corbyn within the Labour Party. But how did he do it? Well, he lied his way through it. I mean, I'm afraid it's controversial opinion, but if you look at his history there, he was telling people he was a big Jeremy Corbyn supporter. He obviously wasn't. He was rescuing the Labour Party from Jeremy Corbyn. Well, now he can be seen. He's an exhausted, worn-out, empty vessel.
Can I tell you,
there's no way to save that.
No. Can I also ask you quickly, before we take this first voice note, Gordon Brown and Harriet Harman, has somebody said to him, we're now in a different reality? Gordon Brown was thrown out by the British people in 2015, at that point the most unpopular Prime Minister. I just wanted to lock any gold I've got up. And what does that say to the chance?
Revenge. You'll call a general election this morning. The Labour Party is an optimistic party. Yeah, they're optimistic that you're going to resign. But I think you're in revenge mode now, Mr. Starmer. Maybe we're going to be the ones that are going to have a bit of optimism for a change. Bye-bye, Starmer. Starmer, bye-bye.
Very good.
It is good. Rishi Sunak threw his toys out of his pram and called that election
I'm afraid so, yeah.
6 months early. And there are many Tory MPs I've spoken to over the last 2 years who say that, you know, we were the best performing economy on the G7, and we know that
Nobody
we were...
ever congratulates you for that.
No,
You need to be the best performing in their pocket.
Absolutely agree. Fact was, what's happened since then is a disgrace. Do you think Starmer will throw his toys out of his pram and call a general election and say, sod the lot of you?
No, I thought that was a very good voice note, but I don't think he'll do that. I mean, to choose to end it all. Ooh, no.
End what though? I mean, you've got old. He said the wrong phrase there. Angela Rayner last night. Have you read this dramatic 1,000-word statement? It basically says we've got everything wrong. We need new direction, new leadership, and you were absolutely fundamentally wrong to not allow Andy Burnham to stand. But there's in that speech. That is a call to lurch to the left.
Yeah, I mean, but how does she think that will save them? But this is the problem with the Labour Party. They believe the wrong stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, if they believed the right stuff, they wouldn't have imploded. I was reflecting on it last night. They've only really had one externally imposed crisis, and that's the Iran war. And he's kept us out of that.
I thought that was the one thing he was right about, saying I'm not joining Trump. Not bases, but flying. I'm being straight, me.
Yeah.
Bases, big mistake. Again, pandering to everybody. But you can't base an economy on... I mean, I heard somebody say yesterday, oh, yes, it was very, very strong leadership in Iran. Well, tell that to Betty in Rochdale, who can't see a doctor, and her flat was freezing cold all winter.
Absolutely. But it's the only crisis forced on them from outside. All of the rest of the chaos, it's all missteps and incompetence by themselves, particularly on the economy. I mean, they've massively now over-regulated employment, therefore we'll get less of it. They've increased tax on employment, we'll get less of it. People will be worse off because of their decisions. They just believe the wrong things. So I wish he would call a general election this morning, because the sooner we get rid of them completely, the better. Because it's hard to believe that it could be any worse if it was Nigel or if it was Kemi. But it might be Nigel.
Well, we'll talk about reform, and we'll talk about... Oh, I just want to play this clip to you. So he sends, obviously, you know, addicted to power, as you quite brilliantly put... He sends Phillipson out yesterday.
Oh.
Now, I'm not a fan of Bridget Phillipson at all. I think she probably could curdle milk just by looking at it. But Philip said to her, tell us, could not in any way describe anything that they would change, and look really indignant. Bridget Phillipson yesterday on Trevor Phillips. Have a watch.
Prime Minister's been saying for the last 3 days, I hear you, I get it, we are going to change. I've now asked you about the three of the biggest issues facing the government, and what I'm getting is nothing's going to change.
Look, the wrong message to take from the elections that we've just had would be... Hang on.
No, I'm taking the message...
Would be that people want us to change tack.
I want to know whether when the Prime Minister says he's going to change, what is going to change? Nothing on the big policies is going to change.
Look, part of the frustration that people feel about the state of our country is a failure of government to have a system that works for them. That is what has to change, and a part of that is around immigration. Look,
so what does that mean?
Hang on.
Well, what does it mean? No, you're giving me a lot of words, but what does it mean?
Right.
And by the way, we've cut that clip. The next minute she says, everything we inherited. The failure of government is the last 2 years. We're not talking about the Tories now. They did fail at the end. The British people voted them out.
2 years
You
is a good run.
cannot keep excusing after 2 years. This is incompetence, and this starts with Starmer. It's a lack of a plan, and you said something earlier on that is so on the money. I don't think he farts unless a focus group say it's OK to. I genuinely don't.
I've sat down with so many Labour MPs on TV shows and elsewhere, in the House of Commons and elsewhere. Very often, very nice people, seem very professional. But if you ask yourself, does this person deeply think for themselves about what's right and what's wrong and what would work? The answer's always, I'm afraid, no. They're machine politics into whom other people pour briefings and ideas, and I think you see it there with Bridget. She's been told what she must say in this appearance, which we always are. My approach was always to try and internalise what they told me I should say, then make it my own where I could. Well, yeah, but then make it my own where I could.
But that's authentic, isn't it?
And that's it. That's the problem. Most politicians are just desperately trying to survive in their position rather than trying to actually do something.
Do you know, I said to somebody the other day, and they said to me, that'd never work. I want a politician to stand in front of me and say the following. Things aren't great. Here's my idea. Here's what I'm going to say to you. If you elect me, I'm going to do that. despite whatever criticism I get, I'm going to do it. I'm going to tell you every day the good, the bad and the indifferent. It will be a raw and emotional journey. We'll have successes, we'll have failures. But I'll tell you what I will be, I'll be honest. And if I succeed, fine, and if I don't, you can boot me out. But that's what you're going to get, complete honesty. People say, you can't say that as a politician. The British people, the silent majority, have had enough of the BS. I genuinely believe that.
That was beautifully put, Jeremy. I would like to think that was my approach to politics.
I know it is.
And then I lost on the 5th go.
Yeah, but you didn't lose. The people that voted for you in Wickham actually respected you for the stance you took. A lot of people lost their seats because of what the Tory party was.
Happened in Wickham. In Wickham, the Labour vote fell and the Tory vote collapsed, and it wasn't the people on the doorstep told me what it was. It was parties, it was betting on the outcome of the election, not staying to the end of D-Day. The people who didn't like me was over Brexit, and that hadn't changed since 2017, so it's a fair comment. But yeah, I would like politics to be done the way that you suggest.
I think the people will demand it, Steve.
But you know what? If they do demand it, and this is a really serious point, if they do demand it, the best thing they can do is to join the political party of their choice, even if it's not the one I'm still a member of, because people forget that power goes to those who are in the room and vote. And if they won't pay, in the Conservative Party's case, £25 a year and go to a candidate selection once in a blue moon, someone else will, and someone else will choose the candidate. And we can weed out these dullards who don't know anything, who don't think for themselves, by just going to the selection meeting and asking them the questions, exposing what kind of person they are. I can feel your listeners going, oh, no, I don't want to do that. But this is the problem, I'm afraid. In a democracy, the kind of government we get is our fault and our choice.
Absolutely agree with you.
We don't join for years.
The one thing I could say during the broadcast last week, because we couldn't talk because we were in purdah in terms of how one broadcast during an election, was get off your backside and go and vote. I don't care how you vote, but don't you dare moan about the state of this country and not cast your... It's not worth it. No, it is.
Even if someone's a Green, which I disagree with profoundly, for goodness sake, join the Green Party, because they've got Polanski. And he's obviously a nightmare. He emerged in this enormous fanfare of how brilliant he was going to be.
You trying to wind me up?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, well, we'll do that after... I don't want to talk about him yet. After this break,
all right.
We're going to talk about Starmer more, probably. We're going to talk about challenging. We're talking about Wes Streeting and Angela the Growler. But we are going to talk about Polanski, who, by the way, had a shocking moment. I need a drum roll. Didn't work for the British Red Cross, right? Apparently, he also claimed that he worked at the Ministry of Justice.
Honestly, you couldn't make it up, really. He did a bit of contracting as a walk-on.
Was a hypnotherapist to a judge. Honestly, I can't have that.
To allow role play or something, and honestly, inflating your CV, it's one thing to when you're desperate to get a job, a little tiny bit of it, but doing it when you're going to be...
Didn't it? Worked for the Chief Whip and it worked for the Chancellor. Right, listen, 6:23, the legend that is Steve Baker, former Tory Minister in the House for the Bakers, 0344 499 1000. Voice notes and calls, text to 87222. Start your message with the word talk. Morning, Jane.
Labour, they just don't get it, do they? They were brought in on stop the boats. We're going to stop the boats. Now, this Sunday, watching the political programmes, it's all about the cost of living. No mention of the migration problem that we've got. They are so far out of touch from the British people. It's embarrassing.
and welcome to Down the Local, the show that goes from pub to pub across the country, speaking to the punters about the subjects driving us all nuts at the moment.
That's Rachel Reeves, Rachel Thieves, Rachel McCown.
I don't really know Meghan Markle. I know Meghan Markle's from Suits, that's about it.
I don't know about anyone else, and I don't know where this is going. I have 0% beers, and I feel
Raising the flag, I think, is symptomatic of this desperation.
Is public transport good value for money?
No, it isn't.
You really don't like speaking to people.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 6:27. It's Monday morning, the 11th of May, the beginning of the end for Keir Starmer. Some of us believe you're waking up to the news that at 10 o'clock this morning, fighting for his political life, saying, it's fine, we are the optimistic party. He says, I like mate. What? Day two, what? I think he'll call... Oh, I see. I think he'll call a general elections day as well. I think he'll throw his toys out of his pram. We're not sure. Bill's in Romsey. Can you ask Steve? Steve Baker is here, former Tory minister, top man as well. Can you ask Steve if the Labour Party takes the whip away from the backbencher who is calling the leadership contest? Would that stop her?
Do you know, I think it would. I think that is a very good point. But the consequences of doing it politically, they'd have to work through. And the Labour Whip's office has been absolutely ruthless. I think they watched me, I will say that, very carefully, organising rebellions, and they decided they were not having any of that. So they could take the whip away, but if they do that, my goodness, the rows they will have within the parliamentary Labour
At what point do you get? You stop Burnham from standing by getting the NEC to throw him out. If you then have a backbencher who has genuine concerns and says, I want to put my head above the parapet. This is Catherine West, who says she'll do it today. If they took the whip away. Jez, can you...
Yeah, I mean, you cannot appear on a Labour Party ballot paper if you're not a Labour Party.
Would he do that? Would he drop the whip?
Well, I mean, it would be a very, very desperate tactic. I think the problem they would have if they did that is it would fragment the Labour Party within Parliament. They would, well, to the point that they couldn't get their business, and that's the point at which you really are into absolute death throes if people go on strike in Parliament.
Richard says, does Steve think that the Starmer's answer to a reset would be a good idea if he announced more breakfast clubs?
Honestly, he might do that, but this is the problem. It's not fundamental to what's going wrong, is it? I mean, everybody cares about kids, and nobody wants kids to go hungry.
Well, stop having them if you can't pay for them. Sorry, I've just about said it. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
a lot of people don't like that. I am absolutely for people having kids, but there comes a point where you have to pay for your children.
You do have to pay for your own children.
You know what they say? They go, we're going to lift them out of poverty. Well, don't have them if you... Sorry, I don't get that.
But I think we've got to change the dynamic of this conversation. I want everybody lifted out of poverty. I want there to be prosperity for everybody. And I know how to do it. We need to do it with lower taxes and lighter regulation and let the free market economy work so that there are plenty of good jobs and working people can go to a job. Employers need to be put in a position of competing for the best people. And then their wages will go up. And that's how you do it. And this nonsense that you can tax everybody into prosperity is killing us. I mean, it's really killing the economy.
Yeah,
and I listened to your last voice note. You can feel the worry in the lady's voice. And it's when we're in this game, it feels like a game sometimes.
Yep.
And it becomes inauthentic. And it's easy for me to mock Labour MPs who spent 14 years making my life a misery. But then I listened to your caller, and in fact I listened to my dear old mum last night. People are genuinely worried about where this goes, what it means for them, what's it going to mean for their mortgage that are all already struggling for. And it's super, super serious. And
it's also, there's a part of it, and I get what you're saying, and one tries to maintain a level.
I'm not having a go at you.
But these people spent 14 years...
Yeah.
What, Tory snobs, Tory scum, Tory this, Tory that, and I've got a very simple mantra, which is the view from the cheap seats is a different view from when you're there. And by the way, as a Briton, as a patriot, I'm allowed to say that, I've no idea.
Yeah.
I would have been really happy for them to succeed after the debacle of the end of the Tories. I'm being really honest.
Well, yeah, I would love to. I want a successful government, and if it turned out that the Labour Party's ideas were correct and they succeeded, well, great, but they aren't and they won't.
You've made a difference already. This is no name, but apparently this is to compliment. Oh, here we go.
Oh,
Steve Baker's the best. Have a listen.
Oh, great.
Morning, Jeremy. Great show as always. Lovely to see Steve with you there this morning. My favourite backbench Conservative, a true Conservative.
Who was it? Did you pay her to make that? You did it. You give somebody 20 quid to say that.
That's very, very sweet.
But it's true. You're authentic. You are authentic.
Some people do hate my guts as well, so I want to be a bit.
That's why we get on well, Stevie B.
That's it. Yeah. But no, it's just such a mess. I mean, on stopping the boats, which was the lady's point, you can hear the worry in her voice. I think what your listeners, I hope, would face up to is that the Labour MPs don't really want to stop the boats. They want to throw the gates open, and they believe stupid things like you can have the welfare state and no controls on the border, and it's just such madness. You can't be handing out other people's money and let anyone. Well, Boris, I'm afraid, we chose Boris in order to stop Jeremy Corbyn, and he did that, and that was existential for our country. But we always knew there were big risks with Boris of doing things which were on the left of the Conservative Party. The net zero stuff, and also,
that's why I stopped believing him. I was a great fan, but
this gets
the
me into
shift
trouble
towards the left and net zero and the Boris wave, he has to take his responsibility for
Boris illustrates something really important with politics, which is very relevant to Starmer. His charisma's so important. People absolutely love Boris. People who disagree with Boris's policies on migration and net zero still love Boris and won't hear a word said against him, as if those policies were forced on him. And it's a very strange phenomenon. And that's what's really crippling Keir Starmer, is that he doesn't have any charisma at all. No. Who would want to be with him for a drink or a party or go on holiday with him? Can you imagine? Can you imagine?
Would anybody out there like to go on holiday with Keir Starmer? Jez, I'm sure when Starmer gives his speech, he will try and attack reform rather than apologise for all his mistakes and U-turns. That's just the arrogance of the man. I think he's a narcissist. Keith in Nottingham, good morning to Robbie. We don't want closer ties with the EU. We don't want that sort of thing at all. Get lost. Jeremy, I don't give a rat's arse what Labour say or do. In the last 2 years, we've seen the true face of Labour, and Labour are finished in this country. Linda, who says she's a hard-working alarm clock Brit and wonders why she bothers. Gary's emboldened. Starmer will not resign until he's betrayed the Leave vote and sold us out to Europe, probably. Steve, morning, Jez. When Starmer mentions that we're not happy with the speed of change, I'm convinced that he believes that we think it's too slow and he's some weird way justify speeding it up. The truth of the matter is we just want him to stop and leave. Morning to Roger in Hounslow. 10 years, I'll give the sod 10 days. Damon's in Wigan. There is no saving his relationship, and that clown cannot understand the simple fact. If the Prime Minister thought anything about Britain, then he would go immediately, but he won't, because he wants a nice job in the EU in the future. But Starmer will now do anything to put Britain to Europe, and that will get us into more trouble. That's a very interesting point.
Being a senior politician in a EU member state has typically been a good route to getting a great job as a commissioner or whatever. I don't think there's much danger of Keir Starmer becoming the EU commissioner. But
he'll get 160 grand a year pension for the rest of his life.
As a commissioner?
No, as a Prime Minister.
Do they actually get that?
Liz Truss gets it, £158,500.
Is that a pension to her, or is that her security costs? I'd have to go back and check.
You'd have to maybe do that. I don't know.
The problem with having been a Prime Minister is people keep writing to you still, and you do still need security. And
yeah, that's true.
So they're given an allowance to run a private office, which isn't quite the same.
Maybe I'm wrong. Front page of the Mail, Stevie B. Let's talk about if there is a leadership challenge. Streeting and Raynor ready for Starmer's fall. Now, PM,
they're ready, but will they act?
Well, so PM on the brink, rebellion today. On the one hand, we had this Miss West who was going to stand up. We're not sure if that's going to happen. You've got Wes Streeting, who is on the right of the Labour Party, probably. Yeah, but probably would garner support inside the parliamentary Labour Party, but knows full well that if it went to a vote with the membership, he'd lose out. So he's in a position where he needs to jump at the right moment. Apparently, according to several newspapers this morning, he's already told Starmer, if you choose to go, I will be standing. He strikes me as somebody who's probably getting his... very, very manipulative. Now, on the left, of course, you've got Raynor. She came out with that speech last night. Big attack on the policy, wants to move to the left, thinks we should do more, hire this, hire that. And she also made the point about Andy Burnham. Now, they were seen a couple of weeks ago at her house, not sure which one or whether she's paid the stamp duty on it, but they were there. He's not in Parliament. She hasn't paid off the HMRC. The cynics are saying they want Starmer to stay and name a date for going, which gives them time to get Burnham in and the dream ticket. Streeting doesn't want to go until Starmer, so he doesn't look like a whatever, but he wants him to go and say, and he wants to stand and be anointed before those two gather their tanks. Is that right?
I think that is right, yeah, and I can feel your listeners screaming at the prospect. The idea that politicians would manipulate the future of the nation to get themselves and their own objectives to get Burnham back. Why anyone thinks Burnham's the answer to anything, I've absolutely no idea.
I don't know where this Messiah of Manchester comes from, because if you are in Manchester this morning and you're an Andy Burnham fan, tell me what he's done, because all I ever hear is he's not... You said something great about the dispatch box. He didn't blow you away when you were in Parliament.
Well, I was a brand new MP with no political experience, and I kept intervening on him in education debates. I thought our education policy was really important, so I went and supported us. And I kept intervening, and then I realised he was stopping taking my interventions because I kept beating him up. And it was then I realised he was not only not taking my interventions, but skipping to the people who'd started to stand up after me. And I thought, now he's afraid of me and won't take my interventions. He was the Shadow Secretary of State for Health. It was his brief. I was a novice, and he couldn't take even my interventions. Now, that's not to flatter myself. That's just to say it was... Anyone could go and watch
Why does he seemingly have this reputation, Burnham?
This is the strange thing about charisma. Sometimes you don't have to be that good. And I don't get it. I don't have it. I don't have it like Boris has it. Of course I don't. Or Jacob. But some people... Jacob, of course, has talent as well as charisma, which is why he's so popular. But there are people like Burnham who don't have the talent, but somehow have the charisma.
Is he charisma? You see his eyebrows look like they meet in the middle. I'd never trust anybody with that. No,
I mean, and if you're in Manchester, he's made himself Mr. Manchester.
Yeah, he has.
And, you know, if you're Mr. Manchester, you're going to keep winning elections in Manchester.
But I think the other interesting thing is, and you're going to go, God, you're quite manipulative. Do you know what I'd do if I was Starmer? I'd let him stand tomorrow in Manchester, because I don't believe that they'd win the seat. I think Reform are going to lick most of Manchester. I'm being completely honest, or out in Tameside. But he wouldn't be brave, Starmer. You see, he wouldn't play that political game.
So you took the words out of my mouth.
He's not brave enough.
You took the words out of my mouth.
He's not brave enough,
That requires balls to do. And you would do it, and it would call him out, and it would be great, and he'd lose, and there we are.
Now, deluded, many people are calling Keir Starmer, but many people are also... I want to get a page 8 on the Mail, because you are the perfect person to describe this.
Yeah.
Article by James Tapsfield, which says, how Sir Keir could eventually be kicked out of Downing Street once and for all. Big stuff about the Tories. Backbench 22 committee, you have to put in a secret letter saying we've lost faith.
Yeah.
Secret, underlined.
Yeah.
Then, whatever that man from Altrincham was that went off, he'd walk in and go, you know, it's all
Prime
over.
Minister, the party's lost, you know,
lost faith.
Sufficient people have lost
Labour
confidence.
differently, you need 81 MPs, which is why Streeting and Rain, and they're all cosing around wondering.
So this is a classic of the difference of the two parties. The Conservative Party's always been an absolute monarchy moderated by regicide. That was the old saying. So you can put in your secret letter.
Yeah.
And when the numbers are hit, there has to be a vote of confidence. And in the Tory party, if you lose the confidence vote, then there's a contest. In the Labour Party, they go very, very formally, straight to a leadership contest, which means 81 souls have got to be brave enough to nominate a challenger, and then they go straight into a contest, and Keir Starmer would go straight on the ballot paper.
Once that contest is called, so this Catherine West thing today, she has said, unless the Cabinet arranges a transition, I will stand. Now, let's just assume that she's got 81. Let's just assume that.
That's a big assumption.
Can others then jump in? So that's when Streeting could go, hold on a minute.
I've got 81
I've got 81. So why is Streeting waiting for a Catherine West? That's what I don't get.
There's an old saying about he who wields the sword never wears the crown, and this is what Streeting knows. He doesn't want to be... To win, you've got to unite and get people to just go in, however you vote, and put their X next to your name. And there'll be people he would lose if he's the one who wields the sword. So he knows he doesn't want to wield the sword. He wants Keir Starmer to be a success. Of course, he wants to be Prime Minister. But he won't be the one...
Prime Minister since he was 3, hasn't he?
I bet he has, yeah. I quite like him, personally, but, you know... So... asking MPs to be brave is never a very viable strategy. What MPs want is to keep winning and to keep getting re-elected. So asking to be brave isn't very viable. So on this story, there's these two routes. The formal challenge, which requires them to bravely back a challenger, or indeed an alternative challenger, but that requires a degree of bravery and willing to get out there and not only put their name forward that they're a backer, but also to go into the media and actually do the work of backing Catherine and saying, well, yeah, I didn't just... You'd have to say, I didn't just put my name down because I wanted to force Starmer out. Oh, no. Actually, I want Catherine West to be Prime Minister, and it's not plausible.
No.
And then the other way to do it is the cabinet revolt, and this is always the last resort of the timid backbencher. I want someone else to do it. I want the cabinet to very bravely resign from the cabinet. And honestly, asking somebody to give up being Secretary of State for Defence or Foreign Secretary or anything that's in the cabinet, it's a big deal. Doesn't work forever to be in the cabinet. And now you're saying, well, for my interests as a backbencher, so I don't have to be brave, I'd like you to be brave and give up this huge...
What about junior ministerial ranks? I heard that's also part of the way that might happen.
I resigned as a junior minister along with David Davis over the Chequers agreement, and it didn't have the slightest impact on the media because I was a junior minister. It's got to be cabinet to have a big impact.
Do you think any of the cabinet will break ranks today?
Do you know, I doubt it, because again, this problem of being brave and the opprobrium that is heaped on you when you're... I mean, goodness knows I have been there. And, you know, people have been often willing to hold my coat while I leapt the parapet, and I have done it a few times. When you leap the parapet, absolutely all of the fires of opprobrium come down on you. It's like the eye of Sauron sweeps around and spots you. And it is a very, very uncomfortable place to be. And to be willing to put yourself there, you've actually got to really believe in something, which takes us back to what we were previously saying. These guys don't believe in anything. The only thing they believe in, really, is an easier life and wishing they weren't in this position. And that's
not
pathetic.
politics, though, is it?
It's not, and yet it's weird. It's weird. The whole thing's weird. How many people get elected to Parliament thinking they're going to have an easy life?
I don't know who it was, but I do, actually. Baroness Wolsey, years ago, before the scandals. She said to me, the thing about being an MP, which I thought was really interesting, was you go in there with great aspirations and, as you said, and then the machinations of Whitehall and government drain it out of you, and you end up wondering how you're relevant at all.
It also has to be said, it's hard representing the public. People suffer, and they let you know. But they very rarely let you know gently and ask you if you wouldn't mind just doing a little bit more. No, they're furious, as your listeners are.
Yeah.
And they've got a lot to be furious about. And it's not a criticism of them. It's just that politicians should just never expect the public to come in gentle and understanding. They need to know that it's a hot seat they're sitting on, and it will be very hot indeed.
Well, we're gonna go to a break. When we come back, prime yourself. Polanski's told another lie.
No way.
People are passing out with shock and horror. Morning, Lee.
Morning, Jezzy. Great show as usual. Lee in his van from Scarborough, veteran. What can I say about Starmer? The most deluded man in the world. Oh, him and Polanski. Polanski's as deluded as he is. But what, Bridget Phillipson going out around doing TV shows? Honestly, I watched most of it yesterday. Never came up with anything. Nothing. This government's got nothing. Nothing to give the British public. Student politics, that's what they're giving us. All your lefty rubbish that's absolutely... Oh, Jez, I can't speak. Why ain't he gone? Seriously. If you were in a job and you'd lost that much support, why wouldn't you go? The man's a megalomaniac, honestly. Anyway, Jez, a great show.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Just gone 7:15. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Talk, of course, the home of common sense. It's where you, alarm clock Brit, come to give us your views on the news of the day. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. You're waking up to the news. The vultures are circling. Number 10, the Prime Minister is going to do a reset this morning at 10 o'clock. Steve Baker's with him. He's going to pay women's representative. Just what is the point of Jess Phillips?
That's such a brilliant paragraph. What a brilliant paragraph.
The Liatola Stamani.
Liatola.
Oh, God.
Absolutely amazing.
Jez, Dave, Steve, I keep hearing politicians talking about poverty instead of breakfast clubs and a huge welfare bill. Why not use all that money to cut taxes and let people pay for themselves?
Well, absolutely. You know, a very long time ago, Reagan talked about, you know, if you just took the welfare bill then in the US and divided it amongst the poor people, there wouldn't be any poor people. It's amazing how bad the welfare state is at performing. You know, it doesn't serve ordinary people. We have to provide for those people who cannot provide for themselves.
But my point is, and I completely agree with you, it's that argument that I see so many politicians not able to have, and I have it on this show on a daily basis. Whenever I talk about the bloated benefits bill, or how if you shut the borders and insisted that the 2 of the 8 million who are not mentally ill or disabled are taking advantage in gaming the system, but I always make the point that is taking it away from the genuine people. And I absolutely want to pay my taxes to help people who cannot help themselves. But I, like many others, am sick to death of wiping the backside of people who are taking advantage, whilst alarm clock Brits out their graft.
And absolutely, and your listeners will absolutely feel like that. And the number of doors I've knocked on with really hard-working families where everything's a struggle, but they're doing the right thing and they're working. And they get very furious very quickly when other people don't. And of course they do. And this is what people forget politics is about. It's about taking from one group and giving to another. Yeah. And that there are not enough billionaires to pay for the benefits to go to all of the people who Labour politicians would like to support. And so in the end, it's always working people who end up paying. My dear old dad, building site carpenter all his life, he still says, I was chatting to him over the weekend, that the worst kind of government for the working man is a Labour government. And he was right. He's right. He was right then, he's right now. I was in
Newcastle for the weekend, big charity event, big shout out, we'll talk about that in a bit. There's no... these are die-hard Labour supporters were. They don't consider the Labour Party the working man or woman's party. None of them are.
So when I think about Labour voters, like Tory voters, they can be segmented multiple ways, but the people who are being most failed by this Labour government are the really solid working people of Labour who simply want a government that they feel is on their side. And they've never trusted the Conservative Party, but they thought the Labour Party stood for them. But then over the boats and the EU and so forth, then they suddenly think, well, actually, the Labour Party's not for me. Is it any wonder they end up voting for reform? Of course they do.
Maggie in London, you'll love this, Steve Baker. Frankly, Jez, they could bring in Jesus Christ and it wouldn't make any difference. The Labour Party have all the same mindset and the people have rejected them big time. The Labour Party are finished. Good morning, Sue in Essex.
That's right.
Yeah, reference streeting. Does he still want to experiment with puberty blockers on kids? God, what a mess this country's in if he could be Prime Minister.
Well, somebody will have to ask him those difficult questions. Yep. But, you know, when I talk to... do have LGBT activists of my acquaintance, moderate and sensible people, and they hate the idea of puberty blockers going to children. How is that in any
way moral? I'll go through the roof.
Well, this is it. So it's a strange kind of morality that thinks children should have puberty blockers. It's very, very...
Well, you say to an 8-year-old, we're going to stop you going through the natural human biological process so we can indoctrinate you with an ideology. And I am not a conspiracist. That is fundamentally against everything I believe in.
As so often in politics and public life, the most radical activists have spoiled the terrain of debate for the moderate people who just need to be treated kindly. I'm absolutely convinced that the vast majority of people who are trans people just need to be let to live their life quietly as they need to live their life. They don't need all this nonsense.
It's like just stop all these activists whose parents have, you know, houses in Mallorca because you never see them in half term. I'm being serious. They jump on the back and you're right, they absolutely take away so much of what probably is a good message.
Common sense. I mean, that's why I like coming on this channel. Common sense is so important. It's just...
Second, morning, Jez, Steve. I truly hope Starmer calls a general election later. I'm 75 this week, and it's honestly got to a stage where I'm struggling to afford to live. and I couldn't afford to die, and this is a government for the people. Don't make me laugh. There you are. That's
well,
David.
yeah, but you know, it's an all serious. I mean, my heart goes out to him. I can feel my spine tingling thinking about his plight. It's awful. But the big problem we've got right now, with the big realignment that's happened, Nigel Farage better be ready. And again, I'll be happy if Nigel Farage delivers a successful government. I will. And it pains me to say it, but I would be happy if we were successfully governed and started getting some prosperity.
You won't know until you vote him in.
Well, this is it.
But I understand the cynicism. I mean, I can tell you, having worked, everybody knows I do the training, I can tell you categorically, you're not going to be tested, and the proof is in the pudding.
Well,
and I know what the detractors.
No one's ready to be Prime Minister till they're Prime Minister and have had a go. But I'm afraid, for me, it's not cynicism so much as scepticism. Campaigning and governing are different. I've done both. They're different, and Nigel just has to be ready. And whenever a general election comes,
you see, the counter to that argument, with respect, hear me out, this isn't a Reform Party political broadcast. I've done my purd of it, but I will say this. If you look at the criticism of this party that's in power, nobody's had a proper job, nobody's made a penny, nobody's employed people, right? All those sorts of things. They are career politicians who have gone from college to the Students' Union to the Fabian Society to some conglomerate of political debate. Maybe it is time for it. Listen, I watched, after those astonishing results for Reform, I don't usually watch it, an early evening edition of Question Time. And I will say this until I am blue in the face, right? There were 300 people in the audience. Robert Jenrick, I texted him about a couple of things. Not one Reform voter or supporter was in that BBC audience on the back of astonishing results by Reform. And when he spoke, there was complete silence. And I take from that the following. When are people going to wake up and understand that the Reform thing it's not just an overnight bubble. This is massive, right? Now, you might have your criticisms, and it might. But right now, people need to acknowledge that this is the biggest thing in British politics.
They do need to acknowledge that, and I acknowledge that. I think it's huge. It's a massive realignment of politics and the way it works. It's not only happening in the UK, it's happening everywhere. It's happening because elites for generations have believed the wrong things, thought the government and themselves should be more powerful, and it's not working for people. And the particular economic policy is just patently not working for people. State-provided welfare and health, it's not good enough and we can't afford it. I mean, we've just got to do something different. And until a politician talks in the way that you did earlier, earnestly about this isn't working, we're going to have to give it to you unvarnished, we're going to have to do something different.
Unvarnished.
Until people, Rishi could have done it. Rishi was not really likely to win that election, and I did actually ask him to do it. He chose not to, fair enough. But, you know, we went into that election on, like, national service out of the blocks. I was thinking, oh, Rishi, this was the moment he could have, even if he'd lost, transformed the terrain of debate by going into an election, speaking in the way that you just indicated, and saying this is honestly where we are for
the most honest thing he talked about was the tax implications of Boki and Labour. I've been doing that from day one.
Yeah.
I mean, Gorton and Denton, that by-election, I'd have taken a woman in her 60s, right, who's lost a son or a daughter to heroin addiction and knocked on every goddamn door. Let's talk Polanski. We've got 2 minutes, front of the Telegraph.
Oh, my word.
Polanski falsely claimed he worked at the Ministry of Justice. This man apparently has hypnotised women. This man's apparently lied about working for the Red Cross and the Ministry of Justice. You're a serious politician. With 2 minutes, how in the name of God is 70% of my country thinking that this man should be anywhere near power?
It's absolutely incredible, isn't it? I mean, it really is. I mean, I think it's about 7% of people think we still didn't go to the moon. So that accounts for 7% of them. But as for the other 10%, it's like... Maybe they like the green stuff, which I think they're wrong about, but they like the green stuff and they're willing to put up with it.
But hold on a second, there hasn't been a mention of a tree. I haven't heard a tree or a river sewage or anything. I've heard about these problems. Gaza.
Yeah, well, that's it. So again, what do you think you're doing? Gaza is not the UK, and it's an important issue, but it's an important issue of foreign policy somewhere else. So it's really worrying to me that such a proportion could vote for him. I think he's a clown. He's been found out. Now voters need to say, oh, actually, I didn't know this. This is new information. If they did know he was a clown and they voted for them anyway, I don't know how we would ever win them round.
I've got to play this because it's a question for you. Laura, good morning.
Morning, Jeremy. Morning, Steve. Laura in Wiltshire. The results last week, obviously, from a Reform point of view, are fantastic. It's the start of something and it's a good direction. But I'm really, really worried what's going to happen with this current government, because I think we're stuck with them for another couple of years. And my terror is that whatever comes next will be even worse, and that they might ruin this country to a position where reform taking over it'll be impossible to get things back to where they were. My question for Steve is, Steve, do you think they're going to try and push through proportional representation now before the next election? Because that's the only way that the left can keep reform and the right out, and that really worries me.
Steve?
I think she's right to worry. Was it Lauren?
Yeah.
Lauren, you're right to worry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's a really serious position we're in. The amount of debt that we have and the fact we keep resorting to currency debasement, printing money, QE, buying bonds with new money, all of that in order to prop up the left's failing ideas, they really might put in PR, and that would be a disaster. They've already done votes for 16-year-olds. You know, these are not.
Well, that's why I think that their immigration policy is cynical, because I think they think if they bring people in and give them too much, they'll vote for the 16-year-olds. And also stopping people.
I've got just one point.
They stopped people from voting, didn't they?
I do want to absolutely acknowledge her concern. It's absolutely serious, but it's never going to be impossible to turn it round. Look at Argentina. They've been through years of misery. Milei is turning around that country, turning it around quickly and defying his sceptics. And people will, in the end, vote for doing what is right. The question is how much suffering in the meantime.
Do me a favour, come back. We'd love to have you. Come back next week?
Oh, no, don't make me get up at 4 a.m. again. I mean, there's alarm clocks and there's alarm clocks.
Honestly, for God's sake, man, you've got to be dedicated. He will be on a weekly... We loved having you on. Steve Baker, thank you very, very much indeed. Couple of minutes to 7. James Price on the way after the news at Next on Talk.
Is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in crisis. Subscribe to the royalty from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Just some breaking news for you coming out of Liverpool Crown Court.
Loads to talk about, I promise you that. Loads and loads and loads.
Just some breaking news for you coming out of Liverpool Crown Court.
Loads to talk about, I promise you that. Loads and loads and loads.
Good afternoon, welcome to the programme, welcome to the Home of Common Sense.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back or welcome along. Just gone 7 o'clock on Monday the 11th of May. We talk, of course, the home of common sense and the home of the alarm clock Brit, the silent majority that finally, I hope, are about to be heard. If you want to be on the show, your views on the news of the day, very important to us. 0344 499 1000. You know that number. You can call us. You can send a voice note. Get those in as soon as you can. 87222 on the text. Morning, Gadeep. Starmer's speech this morning will be meaningless, containing scripted, hollow, gaslit words. This is because our Prime Minister, on the back of the worst set of... Well, I mean, I thought Rachel Reeves was incompetent, but you're right, he sold all the gold at the lowest price because he got that wrong, and he's now... I don't know what the word is. Is he global finance being... Advisor. What about Harriet Harpoon? What does that say about Jess Phillip, as somebody said earlier? She's apparently an advisor on women. What next? Blair? The thing is, Starmer, your time's up, son. And the games that are played... Yeah, this was... I don't like it very much. Bridget Phillipson, yesterday on Trevor Phillips, right, sent out on the rounds to talk about, this is a new reset. We're going to have a new reset. We're going to reset. And all Phillips, who's brilliant on Sky, did was say, could you give me some meat on the bone? We're going to have a reset. Watch Bridget Phillipson squirm.
Prime Minister's been saying for the last 3 days, I hear you, I get it, we are going to change. I've now asked you about the three of the biggest issues facing the government, and what I'm getting is nothing's going to change.
Look, the wrong message to take from the elections that we've just had would be... Hang on.
No, I'm taking the message...
Would be that people want us to change tack.
I want to know whether when the Prime Minister says he's going to change, what is going to change? Nothing on the big policies is going to change.
Look, part of the frustration that people feel about the state of our country is a failure of government to have a system that works for them. That is what has to change, and a part of that is around immigration. Look,
so what does that mean?
Hang on.
Well, what does it mean? No, you're giving me a lot of words, but what does it mean?
Right.
What the people want you to acknowledge is a failure of government. Your government, love. You've been in for 2 years. You can't blame the Tories. That's a boat that's sailed, right? This is down to your leader and your party having no plan, no competence, no common sense, and an ability to understand and listen to what the silent majority wants. She's got nothing to say, that woman. None of them have. Here's the thing. Let's throw it out there. You see, I've managed to sell that. I've just thought about it, but Christian told me about it because he's a genius. What would you like to see change? I know what they're going to put. Starmer out. What would you like to see changed? Monday, the 11th of May. Starmer on the ropes. What could... not make a difference, but what could change dramatically for you, wherever you're listening in the UK? 87222. Start your message with the word talk. We say a very good morning to a legendary broadcaster and commentator, top man in the country. Good morning, James Price. How are you?
Gosh, I've had worse introductions. Thank you, my friend. This is going to be a beautiful day. But it's like the beautiful day at the start of Groundhog Day, isn't it? Yes. Every day Keir Starmer wakes up, he thinks, I'm going to do it differently this time. I'm going to have a reset. I'm going to have great new talent in, and then you bring in old talent. And then he's probably by the end of today, he's going to have to sack, I don't know, the childless minister for something. He's going to have to sack, what will we do? The housing minister because she built houses only for herself. No, that's happened already. Or the homelessness minister for making people homeless. No.
Or the corruption minister who's being sued in Bangladesh for corruption.
It's just beautiful, isn't it?
Jay, you were there during the times of the Tories, and there were undoubted problems at the end. We've talked incessantly about this shambles of a government in the last 21 months. The local election results were understandably appalling, but worse, I think, than they thought. I think Reform nearly got 1,500 seats. But to me, and I'd love you taking this, it's the sheer dogged, arrogant, I don't even know what to call it. I'm going to serve for another 10 years. No, you're not. Listen to me. No focus group's going to say this. You are not. You will be gone. You have been a complete and utter flop. Own it. Doesn't own anything, man.
It's really quite extraordinary, isn't it? And it's a little bit like, I don't know how much people have been playing with these kind of exciting new AI models, and they've got very clever at this point. But some of the early ones, well, it was an interesting kind of trick to type something in. You'd get back answers that didn't really correspond to reality in any way, shape or form. And I think that's what we've got with Starmer. He's such a robotic, analog thinker from another age. And that's not me saying that alone. That's people inside his operation, ministers and advisors inside Number 10, who say these sorts of things to journalists. He is the most unimaginative, they say, the most politically incurious person they've ever worked with. The man says he doesn't have a favourite novel. He says he doesn't ever dream, ever, apparently. He's just a totally...
Sorry. I've got to stop you there, dear boy. He doesn't dream.
He's said all these things. It's absolutely extraordinary, you know. And then he just comes out with these kind of blasé things. I'm building up to why this is going to be a bad problem for him. You know, but remember there was the Island of Strangers speech last year. Well, and that actually is quite good in a way, because he acknowledged the stuff, finally, the things that people in this country were concerned about. And then he got some backlash from the kind of freaks and nutters on his backbenches. And he goes, oh, I hadn't actually really read it before I gave the speech, which is not the sort of thing you're supposed to admit to. But it's like playing poker against someone who's never played before and doesn't understand the rules and just shows you all their cards. And you think, is there something more to this? No, you really are just that much of a moron. So for a few questions, has he read the speech he's about to give before he's given it?
Yes.
Because if you're not careful, Wes Streeting will have got into the teleprompter and given him a bit of an Anchorman, the Legend of Ron Burgundy moment, where he might just accidentally announce he's resigning because he's not even read the speech in advance. There's problem number one. But problem number two is, if that doesn't happen, the same old crap that's going to come out of his mouth is going to come out of his mouth again. He's going to say, oh, it's time for change and I don't care, all this sort of stuff.
But no meat on the bone. Much as Trevor Phillips quite rightly attacked Bridget Phillips yesterday, no meat on the damn bone. You can't keep using the word reset and bringing back dinosaurs and talking about... I watched her going, what the people of this country are upset about is government not succeeding. Your bloody government, love. You've been doing it for 21 months. You haven't brought anything in. They won't give us any detail. And I think that is really coming home to roost.
Yeah, this is the substantive heart of it. As much as I'd love to spend the next 15 minutes with you taking the mick out of Keir Starmer and we can do our impressions back and forth, then the lack of meat on the bone is exactly right. Although, of course, if you are the Prime Minister, you are a vegetarian and therefore you don't like meat on the bone, and maybe that will help with any pivot towards the Green Party loonies that he might need to cling on to power. But they've had all this time in opposition since they got the shellacking in 2010 and that left Gordon Brown. Whatever happened to him? Oh yeah, he's being brought back. Since Gordon Brown lost that election, they've had all this time to work out what it is they do, and with their jolly clever socialist mates to try and work out all these plans. They got into government almost 2 years ago now. They turned to the civil servants turned to them, and they both waited, staring across the cabinet table with bated breath, like a kind of Mexican standoff, each waiting for the other to tell them what to do. And the penny dropped quite quickly that Labour had absolutely no idea what they were doing. And in that vacuum, they allowed the civil service to start giving them stupid things to do. Do you remember the winter fuel payments?
Yeah.
That was number one. Still comes up on the doorstep. And in that breach, you had all these ghastly, useless people getting sacked in ever increasingly absurd ways and nothing getting done.
I couldn't agree more. There's loads I want to ask you today. Vultures are undoubtedly circling. Last night, Rayner did this speech calling for a lurch to the left, saying that Burnham should be in Parliament. It's such an interesting game, and because you were there, right, we've got Streeting, who's wanted to be Prime Minister since he was conceived. He's told the Prime Minister, if there's I don't know why I'm doing Starmer's voice to him, if there's an orderly transition, I will stand, trying to be all things to all people. The left don't want that, because if he gets anointed, that'll be a nightmare for them. He doesn't want them in the game, because if it's a vote amongst the Labour membership, he's toast. Do you believe Starmer will be gone by the end of this week, JP?
I would give it end of the month. I think they're so disorganised. Labour are not good at doing this. They don't have the kind of mechanisms to do it in the same way that the Conservatives do. What they really need is a kind of Graham Brady style figure.
But it was interesting because we had Steve Baker on, and he was saying, you know, we know about the 1922 and the 81 secret, the 50, whatever it is, percentage of letters. This Catherine West, this stalking horse, is asking 80 MPs to stick their heads above the parapet and say, in essence, what Steve Baker said, which is, we think Catherine West should be Prime Minister, not Keir Starmer. Streeting, the minute she does that, will jump in. Is she being put up by anybody? Is Streeting behind this? I don't know. Is there a dark horse? I've heard hide nor hair of the second least trusted person in England, Ed Miliband. Where's he gone?
Well, exactly. I mean, let's give some credit to Wes Streeting, actually, who's one of the few people in that entire Labour government who seems to actually try to make any kind of progress abolishing...
No, I'll give you that.
NHS.
I will give you that. I will.
And again, the decency of him to go up to his boss and say, look, everyone knows I want this, I think you're rubbish and you're out. And when it comes to just letting you know I'm going to go for it. Actually, a little bit of respect for him on that front compared to all the rest of these people who go around...
I struggle to respect him on the... And he would disagree with me, but that's the essence of debate. I think he could have been totally different when he did the deal with the junior doctors at 20 whatever % it was. I think he could have put controls in. But you're right. That it seems in terms of what's reported today about how he's gone about this, that is perhaps a more if there is morality in politics, it's a better way to go about it. But of course, to the membership, Wes Streeting's not the person that they want, and then you've got this party that Starmer takes responsibility to have dragged away from Corbyn's nightmare and rid them of anti-Semitism, in brackets, I think, not close brackets. Now we've got all of that potentially being smashed to smithereens because of the problems, and the left would take over. So it might end up as a fight between, you know, the apparent messiah of Manchester or Rayner against somebody like Wes Streeting, who would represent, to be fair to him, the least mad and probably most sensible side of the Labour Party. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I think that's right. Look, we can definitely debate Wes Streeting's other successes or lack thereof, giving the junior doctors absolutely everything they wanted straight away and then being shocked that they've gone back on strike again and again. Well, we all could have told them that, but socialists never learn because they're real bosses, as we know, of the trade unions rather than the British people. You're all right about that. But again, the fact that therefore someone like that is probably the best person that Labour have got, and that there are all these morons on their backbenches who are desperate to keep someone who is vaguely semi-competent out, says an awful lot. So does the fact that they look like they might be turning to this guy, Andy Burnham. Right, let's just remember Andy Burnham gives it the large one about how he's this kind of outcast and he's all a working class hero, yada yada. Like, the guy went to Cambridge University, he became a special advisor, he became an MP at about 12, he became a minister many years ago. He lost the Labour leadership twice already, first to Ed Miliband, who lost an election, then to Jeremy Corbyn, who lost 2 elections. And when he was asked what his favourite biscuit was in an interview, he said, "Oh, here by gum, I'm northern and I don't like biscuits, I like gravy." That was his actual answer.
I'm sorry. It's a Monday morning. Is this genuinely true? Have you just made that up? When asked, "Do you like me?" "No, I don't like biscuits. I like gravy." Genuinely true.
Yeah, go look it up. It's fantastic.
There's a great urban myth about a Labour MP whose name I'm not going to give for reasons that you'll know about, who once went to canvass somewhere up north. I'm not going to tell you which town because it'll give away his identity and it'll start a huge debate. And he was served with fish and chips at lunchtime. Did you hear me tell this? It's absolutely true. And he sort of parachuted in from Islington, you know, to stand in a northern constituency, which he duly won. It was the time of New Labour. And as he was served his fish and chips, he said, "Oh, this is wonderful. I didn't know they served guacamole up here." And some bloke went, "Listen, you southern git, it's mushy peas. What you talking about? Mushy peas." Honestly, guacamole? No, love, mushy peas. Get grips.
These are the kind of people that, you know, that go around pretending to be socialists, right? One more quick Burnham one for you because it's so good. He decried politicians who wear posh suits. To which the interviewer said to him, "Well, who made your suit then?" And he looks into his jacket and he goes, Hugo Boss, actually. You know, these guys are just complete morons.
I also have a slight problem with people whose eyebrows meet in the middle, and I'm not being disrespectful on any level. I think there's a slight worry about the old monogram. I mean, it doesn't look right. But you know, he is painted as the Messiah. There's been stories that he and Rayner met at her house. We're not sure which one it is or whether she's paid the stamp duty on it.
But my joke.
No, but it's true. But they, you know, and they would want a lurch. If you listen to and watch her 1,000-word statement, she wants to move to the left. So you've got Streeting on the right. They are now or heading towards the sort of fractured mess that the Tory party was 2 years ago, and some would say still is. But I can't. Here's a question for you as a special advisor. Steve Baker couldn't answer this. You know this Catherine West who said if they don't sort it out, she's going to trigger a leadership contest by standing up? Do you think Starmer's that stupid or brave enough to take the whip away from her? Because she hasn't got the Labour whip. She can't do it. Would there be uproar?
Very good point. And this is where you start to get into the end game of this stuff. Will that just upset more people? And this is the kind of scrambling that you've got to do. You remember this at the end of the Boris days. They were sending out Tory ministers to try and defend the line that they were defending that day, and for that minister to finish that morning round only to find that the goalpost had been moved and Number 10 had to admit that something had happened. And when that happens, I think I remember this was a guy called Will Quince, who was the children's minister, great guy, great minister, was sent out to bat and put his reputation on the line, only to find out that the people around Boris had sold him a lie about whatever backpincher or whatever it was, and he was so he worked in the same department as me. He came out was so furious about it that was kind of the beginning of the end, and all those resignations then followed. I don't think the Labour government will do that because I think they're all too cowardly to do it. But just quickly on the substance of this idea of going to the left, Andy Burnham again is someone who said, why do we need to be so in hoc to the bond markets? So the reason you do that, Andy, is that you keep spending money that you don't have, and therefore you're borrowing it from the Chinese and from the Americans and from big banks and all the rest of it, and putting that as debt onto our children and our grandchildren and our great-great-great-grandchildren at this point. If going to the left means bankrupting Britain to benefit Chinese banks, I'm not sure the country's going to want you to go to the left. Does it also mean, what, letting in even more immigrants? I'm not sure that the working class people whose wages have been depressed by that will consider going to the left a very good idea on that front. Does it mean decrying even more of British culture and values and traditions and mores? Because I don't think the patriotic working class would like that very much either, Andy Burnham or Angela Rayner. Does it mean, what, keeping up with the same old crappy NHS that keeps failing because you won't admit any kind of new technologies like Palantir that would actually make things better? Don't think that sounds very good to the patriotic working classes you need to hold on to, does it?
Right.
And so on and so on and so on. I just think these guys are on a total hiding to nothing because none of them understand anything about economics. They understand nothing about defence. They understand nothing about education or the NHS or any of the portfolios they've spent 16 years trying to study since they last got booted out of office. And frankly, they are a complete joke. And this is, to use the tired old cliche, they are just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, and the waterline is rising, and it ain't going to stop until these people are out of government forever.
Do you think, 3 questions for you, you think he'll be gone by the end of the month? Who's our next Prime Minister, Jay?
Said Miliband.
Really?
I mean, he's kept incredibly quiet. He's playing a smarter game. He's the most popular minister amongst all the Labour members. And he will be able to stand up and say, look at evil reform, look at evil Tories. They want to actually make it so you can afford to keep the lights on. Well, we're going to leave a great legacy and yada, 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 net zero, net zero, net zero. He's been in government a lot before, blah, 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 blah. I'll make Greta my advisor on so-and-so. And he just seems less moronic than Angela Rayner. I don't think Andy Burnham will be able to get back in, by the way, because I think anywhere you try and find a by-election for him, the risk will be too great that Reform will probably take that seat.
See, that's why if I was the Prime Minister this morning, I wouldn't be making a speech about us being optimistic or putting Britain at the heart of Europe. I'd face this head-on and say, right, oh yeah, you resign, you have the seat in Manchester, and watch Burnham fall on his backside. The only thing that his party has agreed with was when he stood up to Trump over those airstrikes. We didn't agree about the bases. I didn't agree with them about the bases, but that turned out to be it. They don't have the courage to do this stuff. They really don't. Jay, listen, amazing. Thank you, mate. We really love having you on. Enjoy the day in the countryside like me. We'll just sit and wait for the castle to crumble. The legend is James Price, former government advisor. Good morning, Sean. Morning, Sean.
Morning, Jeremy. Sean from Grimsby here. After the local election results, I listened to these Labour politicians on the TV, and not one of them, mate, has any idea what to do. We all know what to do. Lower taxes, stop the boats, stop mass immigration, less woke stuff, bring down our energy bills. These are all the things that we want, mate, but they won't. Instead of this, mate, they're going to smash us with more socialism. More tax rises, more immigration, more woke stuff, and then telling us at the same time what car we can drive, what tumble dryer we can have, and that we're not allowed to refill a red Coke from Nando's because it's bad for us. Welcome to Labour's socialist world, mate, because these lot ain't going nowhere. Great show, mate.
God, that's a nice thought at 7:25 on a Monday, isn't it? 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. We heard from James Price at Shoot, Please, 2 College Green, Westminster, the Shadow Secretary of State for Work and Pensions. Helen Waitley, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Very well, thank you.
I think I saw you in a corridor a couple of weeks ago and we ran past each other. Helen, there's so much that I want to talk to you about. I know Kemi's made a couple of announcements. Tories will quit the ECHR and restart drilling, all that. But obviously you'd understand, and that's all great. Today, we're going to get a speech at 10 o'clock from our Prime Minister. Love your response to this, describing his party as the optimistic party and how he believes the future, because he's going to last for 10 more years, apparently, is to put Britain at the heart of Europe. What are your thoughts on that, Ellen?
I mean, Clearly, Labour is in absolute chaos. I mean, I've been out and about in the run-up to the local elections, and doorstep after doorstep, people want Keir Starmer gone, and they hate this Labour government. And nobody believes that Keir Starmer is going to do any kind of meaningful reset. All he's done in power is get everything wrong. But as you said, we're putting out some announcements today, and one reason why we're doing that is because it's such a contrast between us and what Labour did in the run into the last general election. One of the problems that Keir Starmer has is he came into government without a plan. He had no plan for what he wanted to do with power. He just wanted to get into power, he just wanted to be in charge, and then he left everything else to look after itself. What we're doing, by contrast, under Kemi Badenoch, is working up our plan for what we would do. We heard Sean a moment ago calling into your show how angry, how frustrated he is with government getting everything wrong. We're listening to people. We know how angry and frustrated people are. They want a government that will do something different, that will fix things, and that's what we're setting out today. Setting out, for instance, how we will bring down the government spending, make savings, bring down the benefits bill, how we will back businesses, how we will cut taxes, how we will make Britain safer and more secure by investing in the police and our defence. We're listening to people, we understand their frustrations, and we have a plan. That's what we're setting out.
Just help me out in layperson's terms. You'll cut welfare spending to help fund 50 billion defence boost. So the police and the defence were paid for by cutting a bill that everybody thinks should be cut, by the way. I completely agree, the welfare benefits bill. I think it's a debate, Helen, that this country needs to have, because what happens is people will always say, oh, what about me? I know there are many genuine people. My argument will be is convincing them that the people that are gaming and playing the system are taking it away from the genuinely in need, aren't they?
This is a really important point. Of course we know that there are people who genuinely need help, people who are seriously ill, seriously disabled, and we want to help them. That's what people want. But we cannot have the welfare bill so out of control, and we cannot have people claiming benefits who could be working. We've identified £23 billion worth of savings. That includes, for instance, stopping benefits to foreigners who we don't have an obligation to be giving benefits to. That includes stopping benefits going for mild mental health conditions, things like ADHD and anxiety, which have been a huge area of growth in the benefits bill. These sort of things have to stop. We can't afford it, but it's also not fair on the hard-working people who are going out paying taxes while other people are staying home. That has to stop.
You must agree with me as the Shadow Work and Pensions Secretary. I only found this out a week ago. It still completely amazes me that ever since COVID, you don't have to, in terms of a benefit chat, see anybody face to face, and you can go, I'm suffering from anxiety, and get laid off for 6 months. How the hell does anybody expect that to be an adequate way of dealing with the problem? It's ridiculous.
Yes, one of the things that's gone really wrong, as you say, that through COVID, the system shifted from seeing someone face to face to you could get benefits over the phone. And that clearly isn't the right way to run a benefit system. We've got to get it back to being people seen face to face, having a proper assessment, really understanding and knowing for sure what their problem is and what help they might need. It's become, I'm afraid, too easy. On the one hand, people who are seriously disabled will say they struggle to navigate the benefit system, but there are other people who've worked out how to game it, frankly. And also there's this thing called sickfluencers, where people online will give advice, give coaching. You can even pay for like a VIP service that will tell you how to claim benefits successfully. That is clearly wrong. We actually tabled an amendment to government legislation last year to ban those sickfluencers. The government voted us down on it, but we still want to see that happen. We have to get this benefits bill under control. One of the things I hear time and again from people is they just say, why do I bother working? People who are working look at how much they're getting after tax. They compare that to how much they could be getting on benefits, and literally go, hold on, I could be getting more on benefits without going out to work.
I asked this of George
Work
Osborne.
should always pay.
I asked this of George Osborne 15 years ago, and to me, maybe it's just a sign of my age, I cannot understand a system that says that either suddenly being on benefits is the third choice behind going to work or going to college, so it's become a career choice, and how in any world at all you are able, not you, we are saying it's more beneficial to sit at home than go out and earn a living. That destroys aspiration. It destroys everything that should be fundamental, I would have thought, to the very thing we all need, which is growth. Helen, a couple of questions. You know I have to do the job correctly. Kemi's reaction to the local elections stunned many people. The Conservative Party lost ground, dropped 560 councillors. Yes, you did reclaim a couple from Labour, Westminster amongst them, but 560 councillors, how can that be perceived as progress, Helen?
Well, of course, and I was sorry to see us lose good Conservative councillors around the country, but we know that the last time most of these elections were fought was at a high point at the kind of post-vaccination programme bounce, so it was always going to be hard for us. But yes, it was progress, because actually we won control of councils that nobody expected us to win. So, for instance, Westminster and Wandsworth. We also held councils that people had said were probably in the bag for reform, places like Bexley and Bromley. So around the country, making gains, holding on, actually that is progress, particularly compared to where we were a year ago, where nobody would have foreseen us actually get those kind of positive results.
In terms of where we are politically, is Reform now the official opposition in terms of the support they've got?
Actually, one of the reasons why Keir Starmer is in so much trouble is because time and again, and week after week, we have held him to account in Parliament, and most conspicuously Kemi Badenoch in those very effective PMQs that she does, putting Keir Starmer on the spot and him being unable to answer her questions. This is the hard work of opposition that we've been doing. We've been the ones getting all those U-turns from Labour, which has been so weakening for Keir Starmer as well. We're the ones who've put him under pressure. We're the ones doing the hard work of opposition, and we're the ones who've come up with an alternative plan for what we would do in government. Reform is doing none of those things. Reform spends more of its time attacking us than it spends attacking Labour, but we know the job of opposition is to attack the government and hold them to account, get them to do better, and then set out an alternative plan so that people have something better to vote for come the next election.
And I get that, but you'd expect me to ask the next question because you're a professional politician. All of that's great, but Reform got the vote.
Of course, I saw that many people did vote Reform at the local elections, but we also saw them go backwards compared to what you would have expected on their results last year. I see them in Kent County Council, where they are doing a terrible job. People can already see where Reform is in charge, things are going very wrong. They're losing loads of their councillors in Kent County Council because people don't want to be part of Reform. So where they're in charge, they're chaotic. They're not the party that should be in government. That's why we're setting out a better alternative to people. So people are so frustrated with Keir Starmer, so frustrated with Labour. They want change, they want a stronger economy, they want safer streets, they want more security. That's what we, the Conservative Party, can give them.
Final thing, which is, it fascinates a lot of people who continually talk about the horrors of what we're in with Starmer and what that might look like in 2.5 years if the same demographics continue, that the thought of Starmer or whoever's leading them, not him, the Liberal Democrats, the Greens, who don't mention trees at all, would deny anybody on the right the opportunity to govern. Where are you personally? I know what the party line is. Let me put you 30 months on. They're 6 months out from an election. Reform's polling at 26, you're polling at 18, the Labour Party are polling at 17, Polanski hopefully has been found out, but he's polling at 15. Would not Reform and the Conservatives owe it to the British people after the debacle of the last 2 years and potentially more to at least get their heads together so we don't have to go through another 5 years of this?
We're not in the business of doing deals with Reform. Reform is fundamentally not a Conservative party. They're on the right on some things and on the left on the others. For an example, and this is within my brief, the two-child benefit cap, which we introduced and we say should stay because that's fair to people who can't afford to have a large family, and also it's not something the country can afford, giving out ever more benefits. It's something Nigel Farage wanted and in fact still wants to get rid of. He wants to spend more on welfare. We've also seen him accept this £5 million donation which he didn't declare. Now, this is not a party which we want to get into business with. We are the Conservative Party and we want to set out an alternative. We are setting out an alternative for the country, which is about having a stronger economy, living within our means, bringing down the size of the state, having security, secure borders and defence. We're setting out our plans. But just to come back also to part of your question there, which was about a kind of Green Lib Dem Labour alliance, yes, that would be a disaster for the country. And I say to people who voted Green over the last week, now, do they really know what they were voting for? For a party that on the one hand means to be rife with anti-Semitism and have got councillors celebrating the attack on Israel and it's all about Gaza, and on the other hand a party that would completely destroy our economy, that would be a disaster for actually all the people who want change, want things to be better, looking for jobs at the moment. So the Green Party would destroy that. So yes, that would be a disaster, but we're setting out a better alternative in the Conservative Party.
Helen, so good of you to take time this morning. You know that. We really appreciate you coming on. Shadow, Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, Helen Whately, thank you very much indeed. 25 to 8. We're live across the UK on Talk Breakfast. Gouda Hari, former Director of Communications for Boris Johnson, is next on Talk Breakfast. Morning, Al.
Morning, JK. Big Al from Swansea here. The only thing this incompetent fool in Downley can do is call a general election. Nobody supports him. The whole country is against him. We've seen that with the brilliant results from reform. His backbenchers won't support him in anything he wants. So what's he protecting? When he came into power, he said, oh, country before party. Well, what's he doing now then? You're floundering now just to keep your job, and you're making yourself look absolutely ridiculous. It'll be a nonsense now, and who's voting for who, and just end it, pal, and get a general election and then be done with it. This country is going on a plug-hole due to the Labour Party. Will be remembered and be in the dustbin of history forever. Good riddance. Keep up the great job, buddy. Ta-ra.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 20 to 8. Thank you for your text messages. 87222. Hello to Andrew in Chorley. Chorley FM. Yeah, we go. Cheers. What do I want from Starmer's government? To bleeding well listen, sack Millipede and put him in charge of pencil sharpening and get Bridget Misery Guts Phillipson to occasionally smile and stop bloody well lecturing us. Ian's in Merseyside. Morning, Jez. Rayner's moved to the left. Does that mean taking even more money from the pockets of hard-pressed workers? Probably Zarina. Jez, people are aware of reform, but as yet they have not proved themselves. Now that they've won all these council seats, time will tell. Enjoy your day. Good point, Zarina. Susan, good morning. JK, Sue from Essex, I want to tell you how much I enjoyed your show last Thursday, which was about absolutely nothing. I've never laughed so much. Could we do it more often? Yeah, sure. Beth from Norfolk here. Has Dan Vickers lost his seat? Not seen him on the show recently. Right. He's not called Dan. He's called Matt. They're on recess. He's at home in Stockton trying to find a girlfriend and going to IKEA a lot because he's that exciting. Is he on the show this week, Matt? Dan Vick? I can call him Dan now. Such a dynamic politician, Matt Vickers. People don't know what his name is. I'm joking. He's a good man. He'll be back. All Starmer has to say today is we're reducing energy bills by reducing the green agenda and producing our own energy, cutting benefits, encouraging new businesses and increasing employment opportunities. Stop the insane funding of illegal immigration. Create secure detention centres whilst they can be processed. But they won't. He won't, of course. And Paul, just finally, he's living in Spain. He's obviously had enough. He says, great. We have the most unpopular Prime Minister in history, but Rayner, even being considered, scares the bejesus out of me. There you go. Oh, I'll do this. Howard in Suffolk. All Starmer have to do is to stop all illegal immigration and drill for gas and oil. No talking, no pontificating. If he announced these two measures, he might survive. I don't think he would, because nobody would believe he's actually going to do it anyway. 0344 499 1000. Delighted now. Next guest, former director of Downing Street Communications. He'd know all about what's going on inside the cauldron of chaos this morning. Guda Harry, a very good morning, sir. Welcome to breakfast. How are you?
I'm very well. I love that phrase, cauldron of chaos. It probably is exactly like that in there. There's a lot of sweat, a lot of testosterone, and a lot of anxiety as well.
And that's just among... No, let's not do it, because we'll be told we're politically incorrect if we say the next line. Guto, great to have you on, pal. I mean, it's extraordinary from a commentary point of view. You've got the least most popular Prime Minister in the history of history, who responds to the worst drubbing in a local election by bringing in a dinosaur who sold all our gold for 1/10 of its value in 2015 and got booted out, and a woman who seems to be around since the beginning of time, Harriet Harpoon. But he comes out and he says at the weekend, which I'm sure is, you know, communications, I'm going to be here for 10 years. What's the reality? What's happening right now? Can you see this man going sooner rather than later, Guto?
Reality for me, I think he's a dead man walking, and it's just a case of, you know, how much longer he can stagger on. And he ain't no Bruce Willis, is he? You can't see him stripped down to his vest, you know, battered, bruised, but still carrying on with a sort of submachine gun under his arms, taking out all the baddies. It's not what he's made of. And, you know, if we were to expect something spectacular from the speech today, we would have expected something a bit more creative, a bit more appealing than to bring back the most hapless Prime Minister in Labour history, Gordon Brown.
Well, until this one, of course.
These problems. You literally couldn't make it up.
Until this one, of course. Maybe that's what they've got in common.
Yeah, and judge a man by his friends. You know, if anyone else was trying to save his premiership, he would bring back somebody glamorous, somebody with an edge. Remember when Rishi Sunak brought back David Cameron? He had a lot of opponents, but he did sort of stride the world stage. He had a presence. He turned up at the House of Lords and people were immediately saying, wow, we'd forgotten how good he was at this. Nobody said that about Gordon Brown. They just thought, why does this guy want us to make a link between him and the last guy to lose power for the Labour Party in a spectacular way?
I couldn't agree more. Right now, you see Phillipson being pulled to shreds. What's the change he's going to talk about? We're an optimistic party and we'll put Britain at the heart of Europe. That's just going to alienate even more people. He just doesn't seem competent, Guto. Just doesn't.
Do you know what I think the problem is? I think he still thinks he's in opposition. He may even think that he or some of the people around him think they're in student politics where, you know, you just say something and that's it. These guys are in power, or at least they're meant to. Robot. It's not exactly going to tickle my tummy. And, you know, I've never been a staunch supporter of the Labour Party, but I find it really hard to think that those people who are looking at the massacre last week of decent Labour people across the UK, particularly in my native Wales, that they think this speech by, you know, the robotic Starmer is going to turn it round.
Do you think you'll survive the week, Guto?
I don't know, these things, as I know painfully from what happened to Boris Johnson, when somebody goes over the top, you know, everybody else either sort of pretends that they're appalled that they've done so, or they all pile in. And I think on this occasion, there's a very strong possibility they all pile in, and then things move extremely fast.
You said you were there for the Boris debacle. What's that like, being in the epicentre of something as resignation start to double and treble and fourfold, and you realise the white writing's on the wall? Did he realise the writing was on the wall very quickly, or was he in denial as well?
No, he did. You know, it all happened pretty quickly. It was painful because he just had a couple of great weeks on the world stage. He had survived a vote of confidence a few weeks beforehand. One eccentric little incident, when you look back at it now, to do with, Chris Pincher, allegedly groping somebody. Boris wasn't even in town when this incident happened, but it was used as a trigger. I think this is a different situation. The opposition was scared of Boris. The opposition wanted him taken out because they knew if he survived the summer, he'd come back fighting, and he had proved time and time and time again that he could actually, raise his party and raise himself. Nobody thinks that about Keir Starmer. They know that every time he actually resets his government, and it's happened half a dozen times already in 2 years, he seems to make it worse. He still has a vacancy, by the way, for a director communications. I mean, this guy is,
Are you
is
applying?
kind of on the deck of a ship without a captain.
Why aren't you applying?
Can you see me working for this?
No.
You can't polish a proverbial, can you? I don't think you can even roll Keir Starmer in glitter.
Oh, mate, that's brilliant. A lot of people can't answer this. I don't. If you can't, you can't. If he goes, who's the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Guto?
Well, that's the only thing that's kept him there this long, I think, is the fear that when they roll the dice, they might get somebody even worse. They get their own, as they say, Labour's Liz Truss, and that pretty much is in the shape of Angela Rayner. There's a lot of sensible people, the people who actually do want to do something with power. They dream of getting somebody like Wes Streeting, but that seems to be, a long shot for some of them. We'll see. I think this is one of those cometh the hour, cometh the man. And I think Wes Streeting, Angela Rayner, anyone else out there, now is the moment. There won't be a better reason or a more genuine reason for actually putting Keir Starmer out of his misery, putting the UK out of his misery, and putting the Labour Party out of its misery.
But who do you think will be the next Prime Minister then? Go on, neck on the line time. James Price says Ed Miliband, who's gone very quiet. I can't have him. Blimey, O'Reilly.
Well, it's sort of, we started this conversation talking about just when you didn't think it could get worse, it could. It obviously could. What does often happen in situations like this is that the person who ends up holding the baby is not anyone you expected. We got John Major that way, and actually we were slightly underwhelmed, but he went on to win a spectacular victory for the Conservative Party, and then, spectacular loss. He's aged well. He's a proper statesman. These days, you may end up with somebody that we haven't really thought of, but I think the odds are that you will have Wes Streeting as a Blairite on the right of the party versus somebody like Angela Rayner and, battle for the soul and all that.
Amazing. Listen, so good to have you on, my friend. By the way, I'm going to leave you this to make you happy. The Prime Minister of Mrs. Yes, doesn't dream.
He doesn't dream.
I mean, doesn't that sum it up? Does that not sum up? Starmer's never had a dream, either a clean one or not. It just sums him up, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? Just so boring. Guto, great to have you on. Come again soon. Thank you so much indeed, my friend. Former Director of Communications for Boris Johnson in Downing Street, the legend that is Guto Harry, or even Harry. 10 to 8. We've got the man himself, Professor or Sir John Curtis, next. We'll talk about the breakdown from the local elections last week, but let's go to the break by saying good morning, Wayne.
Morning, Jezza. It's Wayne from Erdington in Birmingham, mate. When you listen to Starmer, after his hiding the other day, he's doubled down on all his crap. I mean, he's absolutely tone deaf. He's completely tone deaf. And all this, change is not coming quick enough. Everything is changed. Is for the to the detriment of this country. He's not brought in one change that has been beneficial to anybody that is a British citizen. And that's a fact, mate. Keep up the good work, Jezza. The man is an absolute, well, we know what he is, don't we? Top man.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. A very good morning to John Curtis, polling expert and professor of politics at the University of Strathclyde. John, I was worried about you last week. I was watching you on every single channel. You didn't look like you'd slept for about a week, man. Are you all right?
Oh, I'm fine, but sure, it was inevitably the case that we worked all the way through Thursday night because there was a trickle of English local council results. And then as soon as that was over, we went into Friday with the drama in Scotland and Wales as well as many more English council results. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. I didn't sleep all night. That's just par for the norm for local elections, I'm afraid, Jeremy.
Bless you. Overall, at the end of the day, would love a quick update from you. A brutal drubbing for Labour by anybody's standards, losing over 1,400 councillors and the control of 38 councillors. Reform, the big winners, 1,454 councillors, 14 councils. The Green Party, historic breakthroughs, yeah, apparently 400 councillors and control of 5 councils. And the Tories, although they called it progress, losing 560 seats. What was your take of it all, John?
Well, my take number one is that this is undoubtedly Labour's worst set of local election results and also devolved election results. Worst result ever in Scotland, worst result ever in Wales, certainly worst result ever outside of London. In London, it's still not entirely clear yet. We don't have all the voting data, but certainly Labour are at around their worst previous results in London. And given that London's become much more of a Labour city over the last 20 years, that's also pretty remarkable. In the case of reform, undoubtedly confirmation of the substantial challenge they pose to the conventional political system, particularly to the Conservatives. They have support very, very heavily concentrated in areas that voted for Brexit. And I think it's also pretty clear, in line with the opinion polls, however, that their support was somewhat lower than it was running at in the local elections last year. In the case of the Conservatives, yeah, frankly, I struggle to see much signs of progress. There are only a few places where you can do a detailed comparison with last year, but where you can, Conservative support seems to be down somewhat. And crucially, these local elections confirm that the Conservative Party now is no more popular in Brexit Britain than it is in pro-EU Britain. For Reform have basically now taken the whole of the coalition that Boris Johnson assembled in 2019 to say that we should get Brexit done. The Liberal Democrats, they're frankly flatlining. Although they gained seats, they lost votes as compared with 2022 and indeed most other previous local elections. And the Greens made a substantial advance. It's not as substantial as that of Reform, but there are now certainly plenty of places where the battle is between the Reform and the Greens. And of course, the Greens, of course, did particularly well in parts of London.
I completely agree with everything you've said. They're looking forward in terms of the next few years. If this was replicated, I read over the weekend, Reform would have 286 seats, but will be shy of an overall majority. And I just said to Helen Whately, the Shadow Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, that the way the political map is looking at this moment, it looks like that would be the case. And then all sorts of connotations about who would sit with who. Reform and Tories hate each other. They say they won't do a deal. Labour doesn't want to do a deal with the Greens. The Greens hate Labour. The Greens hate everybody, I think. But it is, for the first time in our history, not only very different, but all to pay for, isn't it?
Yes, well, it's certainly true that these local elections confirm what the opinion polls have been telling us for 2 years, that our politics is now more fragmented than it ever has been. It's true in England. It's also true in Scotland as well. And to some degree, the same could be said of Wales. It's also true that it's not just the Labour Party that's in deep trouble. It is also the Conservatives. Never have we seen our two traditional governing parties together suffering so much trouble at the same point in time. So, that question that's been hanging over us, which is where is our two-party system heading? Is it having its dying days? Well, that question is even more pressing now. Now, at this point, however, what one has to say, Jeremy, is that it's 3 years to go to the next election. There's an awful lot of water to flow under a lot of bridges. But that certainly the prospect at the moment, one has to say, is that the odds that the next parliament is going to be a hung parliament and a fragmented parliament and a parliament where, we've got Greens at one end of the spectrum, Reform at the other, both with significant presences, that prospect at least is a clear possibility, even if it's far, far from being a certainty.
Completely agree. With the results like this, we haven't got long, Sir John. Should Keir Starmer resign, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, that's up to the Labour Party to decide. I think what I would say is I will remind people of what happened in 2006 when Labour did very badly in London, poorly in local elections. Tony Blair announced that he was going to stand down 12 months later. Keir Starmer might discover that might be his best way of prolonging his period in office.
Brilliant. John, listen, great to have you on, and thank you. It'll be interesting to see, as you quite rightly say, how this pans out, because there are another 3 years to the next election. Whether we last that long, whether parties pick up more support, or we do end up, as you say, 3 years is a damn long time, and anything can happen. We really appreciate your time. That's Sir John Curtis, polling expert. Great to have him on Talk Breakfast this morning. Almost 8 o'clock, we're live across the UK. Alarm clock. Brits, what are you up to? What do you make of it? We've got a big speech. Keir Starmer's making a big speech today where he's going to say, we are an optimistic party and Britain should be at the heart of Europe. And we're all looking at the camera going, mate, you've just been drubbed. You're the least popular Prime Minister in the history of the world. You need to do the right thing by all of us and go. Sorry, it's time to go. I'm going to the loo. Starmer's going to leave. News is next.
This journey of me following the migrants went from sort of 10 in the morning, all around the clock, to late at night, to the point where, on buses, on trains, through streets, at every key point, French military police and the French police, they were there. They were on the bus, taking down notes, taking pictures, but not doing anything to deter the migrants or stop them, just being there.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back or welcome along. You would talk, of course, the home of common sense and the home of the alarm clock break. You know, the hard-working man or woman that goes out to work and pays tax so all the feckless can take advantage. We're on your side. 0344 419 1000, telephone number or voice note number for you. 87222. Start your message with the word talk. You're waking up to the news, of course, that Keir Starmer, deluded, completely and utterly deluded, holed up in 10 Downing Street this morning. They're all coming for him. Over the weekend, on the back of the worst drubbings ever seen in local election history, his response was to say, I'm going to stay another 10 years and I'm going to reset. I'm bringing back Gordon Brown, the man that sold all of our gold at a tenth of the value that it was and got voted out by the British public. Harriet, what's her name? As Labour MPs. One, Catherine West, and completely unknown ex-minister, junior minister, said she was going to stand today. But the vultures, though, I mean, the big hitters, Angela Rayner last night, that 1,000-word speech where she attacked Starmer's government, said it needs to go to the left, says he should allow the alleged messiah of Manchester, Andy Burnham, into Parliament. On the Blairite of the party, you've got Wes Streeting. He doesn't know when to play his hand, although let me give you an idea in the last 10 minutes of how deranged the Labour Party is. The Labour Party won't come on this show. That's their choice, that's right. But Peter Kyle, I'd like to point out, absolutely no sodding relation of mine, has just gone on to Times Radio, our sister station, and I quote said, the British public will forgive us. Morning, Dan.
Morning, Jezza. It's Dan from Kent. So it looks like Keir, I have a fetish for humiliation. Starmer's going to announce closer ties with Europe today. So not read the room. Europe's moving to the right. They don't want mass immigration. They don't want control by bureaucrats in Brussels. And if he thinks his party's going to carry on this perilous journey of wrecking our country, think again. Doesn't matter who's in charge, just read the room. And if I was Catherine West, stay away from any buses today. Great show.
Brilliant. 0344 499 1000 is a man who's always delighted to give his opinion. Brilliant to have him on. Reform UK Shadow Home Secretary Zia Youssef. Morning, Zia.
Good morning.
Let's start, before we start dealing with the Ayatollah Stimani, as somebody has named him this morning. Let's talk about last Thursday. We haven't spoken personally or on the radio since then. Astonishing results for Reform, 1,454 seats, control of 14 councils. Many will now say the official opposition. Labour in meltdown, losing nearly 1,500 seats, 38 councils. The Conservatives rather deluding. I mean, I'm being straight with you. They said this is progress. I don't know what failure looks like if losing 563 seats is a given. And the Greens, which just frightened me, and I should announce at this moment in time that this morning we've discovered he's lied about something else, Zach Polanski. He said he worked for the Ministry of Justice. That, too, is a bit of a fib. Zia, what's Reform's response to last Thursday? Better than thought? The same as you thought? What's the response?
Yeah, look, I just want to say thank you to all of the Reform supporters out there and those of you who voted for Reform for helping deliver a truly historic set of results for Nigel Farage, our thousands of incredible councillors, and for Reform UK. Look, it was a turquoise tidal wave that swept across large parts of the country. And it is really historic because it's never happened before that a start-up insurgent party that's only been around a few years, we shouldn't forget, was able to demolish Labour in their heartlands, across the Red Wall. And similarly, Reform demolished the Tories in some of their former heartlands, like Essex, where a large portion of the so-called shadow cabinet would, in fact, lose their seats based on those results, including Kemi Badenoch herself. So it really was an extraordinary set of results. It's a clear message, a clear repudiation of this woeful Prime Minister. We already knew he was unpopular, but the sheer magnitude of those losses have obviously now placed an enormous amount of pressure on him. And in terms of the Tories, exactly as you said, I mean, for Kemi Badenoch, it was clearly rehearsed beforehand to come out grinning and smiling and saying that, this is some sort of victory for the Tories and they're on their way back. I mean, you can actually look, I tweeted out yesterday, this is just raw data. She is the most unsuccessful leader of the opposition in this country's history in terms of how many council seats they have lost under a leader of the opposition. Remember, opposition parties are meant to be winning seats.
Yep.
Right? They're meant to be winning seats in opposition, not hemorrhaging them. There's a few people left in London And obviously significant parts of London now do feel like a foreign country, unfortunately. There's a few parts of London that still vote for them, but really they are no longer a national party. They've been demolished and irrelevant in large parts of England, demolished and irrelevant in Wales, demolished and irrelevant in Scotland. So look, Reform is now the last truly national party. We're going from strength to strength. To do it 2 years in a row shows this wasn't just some protest, some flash in the pan. We're going to continue to build from here. And I do think we've taken a huge step forward in making Nigel Farage our Prime Minister.
I just wanted your take on something, because I'm going to compliment you. You go on that bloody Question Time, which I never watch at 10 o'clock at night because I'm always in bed to get up for this. But after the Thursday results, they did a sort of a version, I think it might have been Friday, actually, to be fair, at 7:30. It might have been Thursday, of which Rob Jenrick appeared on. And I was talking to him. Every time he spoke, there was complete silence. The BBC's idea of a Question Time that had Piers Morgan in, there was not one Reform supporter. Is it frustrating as a politician to know that millions of people are voting for the ideas that you and Nigel come up with, and yet so many institutions, including our biased main broadcaster, still refuse to even acknowledge the successes that Reform have had?
Well, I think it's been extraordinary looking at the reaction of the mainstream media to Reform's success. Again, I mean, what they've essentially done, having spent years now trying to portray Reform, Nigel, everyone at Reform, people who vote for Reform as racist, bigots, what they've done reacting to these historic set of results where Reform won by a country mile is to basically do the same thing again, essentially accuse everyone, all of us, of being racist and really insult the millions of people who voted for Reform. And look, in terms of the BBC, look, is it frustrating? Yes. It's the game we're in. You know, it's no surprise, sadly. I mean, remember, Victoria Derbyshire, and I thought this was actually a new low for the BBC. Victoria Derbyshire, who earns, almost a couple of £100,000 a year, much of that money paid for, by the way, by people who support Reform, went on a 7-minute monologue on Newsnight a couple of days before the election. I've not seen anything like that. 7-minute monologue, looking down the barrel of the camera, attacking Nigel, making a series of totally false and frankly defamatory claims about him. This is the state broadcaster. And for that to happen, and again, I point out she's paid a small fortune. She's paid a king's ransom, in no small part by people clearly who vote for Reform. I think it's deeply, deeply insulting, and I think the BBC should know better.
I think politicians of all sides should understand that the silent majority, and I know that you would agree with me on this, will be heard, actually, and that whatever institutions, whether it's Nigel or Zach Polanski says as balanced as he possibly can, or anybody else, politics has changed, and politicians of all parties would do well to remember that. Zia, let's talk about where we're left. I mean, this extraordinary weekend. We're on the back of the debacle for Labour. You know, the vultures are circling. Rayner's done a statement. Wes Streeting's wondering when to show his hand. Everybody's jumping around. This Catherine West that nobody had heard of. We were talking this morning. She could have the whip taken away so she can't stand against her. But here's what I wanted to ask you. Is this man deluded, just drunk on what the power of the role of Prime Minister gives him, or what? Because he's going to do a speech in about 2 hours where he says, we're the party of optimism. We're going to join Europe. I'm here for another 10 years. I mean, with the greatest of respect, whatever your political persuasion, that's just sheer drivel, isn't it?
Of course it is. It is the height of delusion. But it actually reminds me, one of the last things Boris Johnson did as Prime Minister was declare that he would be Prime Minister for at least another 10 years. Do you remember that? You can Google it.
Hasta la vista, baby. I'll be back. I remember, yeah.
Yeah, these are sort of chemical alley levels of delusion. And so it's something that has afflicted both the Tories and Labour now. Look, I think Keir Starmer is not a decent man who's out of his depth. I think he's an awful man, actually. I think he's got a real malevolent streak to him. You look at the way he has behaved, the way he has talked about his political opponents, the way he's done so many awful things to people in this country that were not in his manifesto. Do you remember when he was asked on that committee about whether he was aware that a farmer had tragically committed suicide? And that more were considering doing so as a result of the inheritance tax rate on farmers, which again was not in the manifesto. And, you know, his reaction showed he didn't flinch. Honestly,
there's no empathy. You see, I don't.
No emotion.
There's this. This sounds really, really light-hearted, but there's a reason I'm going to say this to you. We found out over the weekend he admitted he doesn't dream, and somebody wrote to me and said, "Of course he doesn't dream. Robots get switched off at night." That might seem flippant, but there is no. I've said it for as long as I have done this show. To me, Zia, right? I can talk to you. I can talk to other politicians, and I feel that you feel it, right? There's, to me, in his DNA, in his being, in his makeup, there's no emotion, good, bad, or indifferent. We have good days, we have bad days, we get things right, we get things wrong. He's like that droning, dreadful noise. He's like a dental drill. There's no. I want him to get upset. I want him to get angry. I want him to be passionate. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And the British people have sussed that out. And the result is, of course, that he got the job because after the chaos of the last Tories, but suddenly there are alternatives. But it's the sheer bloody mindedness. Steve Baker, the ex-minister I get on quite well with, Tory, who was doing the papers this morning, said that becoming an MP, I'm going to get this wrong, but he basically said when you become an MP, it's like, you know, initially smelling a bit of weed, you feel quite good, and then when you become a minister, you probably, you know, progress to cocaine, and when you become prime minister, you're just addicted to whatever, because the power of the whole thing is addictive. Because if he looked in the mirrors here, what would he say? I mean, the whole thing is crumbling, and I say whole thing, there wasn't even a plan.
Well, look, if Keir Starmer fought for the British people the way he fights for his own personal career and power, we'd be living in an incredible country. You know, we'd be seeing Britain going from strength to strength. You know, if he fought to secure our borders, if he fought for the women, English, British women and girls who have suffered at the hands of sex crimes by illegal migrants, then we would be living in a much safer country. If he fought for, you know, people who set their alarm clocks before they go to bed and rise early in the morning and go to work and work really darn hard, if he fought for them and making sure they got value for their taxes and felt like they were living in a better country, then, you know, Britain would be exponentially more powerful and his ratings would be through the roof if he fought for them the way he fights for his own personal career. And I think that's what people also see, and people are sick and tired of it. You know, the Tory party became a party which was essentially a vehicle for as many sort of public school bluffers to become prime minister as possible in a short period of time. That's what they ended up becoming. The Labour Party has, you know, a man who came to power with a big majority, but as you pointed out, only 1 in 5 people eligible to vote for Labour actually voted for him. People shouldn't forget, Jeremy Corbyn won more votes, considerably more votes than Keir Starmer's Labour Party did. Both times Jeremy Corbyn ran in a general election. The only reason Starmer is the prime minister is because the Tories spent 14 years betraying their own voters, and people were sick of it and turfed them out. And now we've got the situation where there's absolutely no legitimacy. And leaving all, you know, flippancy and things aside, this is a really important point. We are now in a situation where we have a lame duck prime minister devoid of any real power. He's not going to be able to get anything done which he would actually want to get done. And similarly, anyone who replaces him, as awful as that cast of characters are, I mean, we're talking here about maybe Prime Minister or Chancellor Naded Miliband, for example, so hold on to your hats, or Angela Rayner.
Yeah.
Whoever that person is will also have absolutely no legitimacy. I mean, we learnt this from the Tories. And this is why, you know, as frustrating as it is as a patriotic British person to say this, I think we do need another general election, because whoever wins, whoever is going to lead this country needs a mandate from the British people to do it. The Tories taught us you can change prime ministers every single week. If you don't go to the country and get a mandate, that person, he or she, will never be able to discharge the duties of the prime minister properly. And this country is going to continue, I'm afraid, to continue on this really, really negative trajectory unless we do that.
Mate, it's always great to have you on. We're so grateful for your time and how busy you are. Good to get a reformed view of just those elections last week and us going forward as a country. Zia Youssef, Reform UK's Shadow Home Secretary, thank you so much indeed. 8:20. We're live across the United Kingdom. Talk Breakfast is on. Good morning. Robert in Hertfordshire. Morning, Rob.
Good morning, Jezza. One of your guests earlier suggested that Starmer could go on for another year. My God, there's no way. I mean, we couldn't let him go on for another 3 days. This is what should happen. He should resign today. The fact that they haven't got anybody suitable to take over is not our fault. It's not our fault, right? So they have to call. You've got 3 contestants. One's a fraudster, one's not even an MP, and one Wes Streeting, which you quite rightly said is weak. He's weak. I quite like the cut of his jib.
Yeah, me too. He's the more acceptable face of Labour. he would be on the Blairite side, but I have to say the problem is for all politicians, and the Labour Party is, I think, probably experiencing exactly what the Tory party did, which is if you are part of something which is falling on its backside, you are judged accordingly. The weakness that I pointed out, and I've said good things about West Streeting, I do think the negotiation with those junior doctors showed weakness because there seemed to be no things attached to that deal, and back they came. But you've got this fissure right down the middle of the Labour Party. He can't show his hand too soon, but he doesn't want to vote amongst the members. We all know that. He wants to be anointed. That's why he's gone to Starmer and said, I'm behind you, but if you choose to step aside, I should let you know I'm standing. The left are going, we don't want him in. The right are going, we don't want them. Listen, the most important thing in all of this, Stu, Rob, is that we as a country are suffering whilst these people are running around. And the biggest and most interesting point that we should make is every single criticism that the Labour Party made in opposition about how Tories took this cronyism, jobs for the boys, they're not concerned about the country. While this lot are running around trying to get the top job, this country's on its backside. Good to have you on, pal. That was Robert in Hertfordshire, 8:20. We're live across the UK. Take a breath. Oliver William Robin Kyle is sat in the car outside school, won't go in. Just won't go in. Literally will not go in. Hope you're all right, mate. You should see it, by the way, the latest thing is roller skates through the kitchen. They took my feet off yesterday. Unbelievable. Rissy Rouge, she's smiling, eating chocolate probably because it's 8 o'clock. And my wife is probably doing a valiant job. Definitely doing. Did you see? Definitely doing. Sorry, what am I saying? The line on screen? Oh. What is it? I can't see it. No one has been found guilty of being a fraudster, as Robert mentioned. That was a public service announcement. This is Talk Breakfast. Stuart, good morning.
Stuart from Wigan. Can somebody tell me why people keep mentioning West Streeting? Yeah, he's on the right-hand side at party. It's also his call that hundreds of kids are going to be put on a trial for, I forgot what they're bloody called now, puberty blockers. And seriously, do we want somebody that wants to put kids on it and ruin their lives? Do we want that? We don't need a trial for puberty blockers. We know what you want to do after you're 18-year-old. Up to you. Kids know it's not. The Labour Party is dead. It's finished.
Some breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
That's something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a Talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, does these people who lead us actually hate Britain? Yeah. Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Talk Breakfast is on. I have a common sense, the home of Alarm Clock Britain. It's all about Starmer. Big speech at 10 o'clock where he will say, I mean, I would say in a slightly deluded sense, we're an optimistic party. We need to be closer to Europe. Not basically everybody wants me out, the electorate and my own party. What is going to happen? Dan Hodges in just a tick. Good morning, Sean.
Morning, Jezza. Sean of Cheshire, and just listening to your shadow work and pension secretary there. There's nothing worse than hearing insincere politicians over-emphasising every point that the plebs just don't understand. They were the architects. They were the architects, the designers, and the people who rolled out this mess that we're living in, this strange fantasy world of net zero and everything else. They were the architects, and they handed this to Labour. So, you know, I'm not a Labour fan, but they were handed a bit of a poison chalice and a bit of a hand grenade without the pin in it. And when the same people who voted and implemented and rolled it out are now saying, oh, it's really bad that the Labour Party have done this and we're going to fix it, they did it. They did it to us. I could go on. I'm not going to. I'm going to have a happy day. I just wanted to absolutely tell you, Jeremy, that I believe she's so sincere. I take every word and I believe it. Have a nice day.
I love you. I love Alarm Clock Brits. They're so good. How good's that? 8:25. That was Sean responding to Helen Whately, Shadow Work and Pension Secretary. His opinion. Ian Anderson, listen to Starmer's words over the weekend. Don't rule out him going. His speech today will be an announced managed departure. In other words, he's resigning, but not until he signs us up to the EU. That's Ian in Cornwall. Susan says, Jez, I believe Starmer is so hell-bent on getting us back into the EU. This has been his one aim from day one, primarily for his own benefit and future career prospects. What he is doing behind our backs is frightening. That's why he's not really interested in the day-to-day running of this country. He wants his own way on the EU and everything else can go to hell. For God's sake, Starmer, you're a rich man. Just go and spend time with your family. And leave us alone. Here's a man who I find this speaking to this next guest absolutely brilliant because he's so switched on. Good morning to top commentator, Mail on Sunday, Mail, just legend. Dan Hodges, hello, my friend.
Morning.
Now, just to prove my team are quite good, before we get into your excellent article, Streeting has stolen a march on his colleagues and fortune offers favours the brave, we've just read a tweet, dear boy, that came out from you. A cabinet minister has just told me they believe Sir Keir Starmer will announce he's standing down this week without the need for a contest. Only one minister, but it's the first time I've heard it. Pray tell more, Dan Hodges.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you and your team, I actually tweeted that yesterday.
You're useless, that was yesterday. I was looking really switched on there.
But yes, they are on the ball to an extent. No, I mean, that was something I got. I mean, there were two interesting things I got from sort of different cabinet ministers yesterday. One was the fact that they believe we will now see a contest at some point this week, or let me rephrase that. We will see enough MPs break cover and say Starmer has to go to trigger a contest if necessary. A second MP believes that what will happen is that Starmer, once the names are secured, Starmer will then go. Starmer will then be presented with if you don't go, we'll drag you out. Entirely separate to that, another cabinet minister messaged me yesterday and said, as a result of that, they think he will go this week. Yeah.
It's quite interesting. Your article today, we're sitting here, deluded PM's final throw of the dice. You put Streeting has stolen a march on his colleagues and fortune offers favours the brave. Now, if we can talk to you about the two main vultures that people are talking about circling. One, of course, last night, Angela Rayner launched a dramatic 1,000-word statement, Dan, unleashing quite an attack on Sir Keir Starmer's record in office, but absolutely also pushing a far more left-wing policy and also saying that Sir Keir Starmer was wrong to block Andy Burnham and the self-styled Messiah of Manchester, not to be convinced myself, should be allowed to become an MP. So we've got them on the left, and then we've got Wes Streeting. We'll talk about him in a sec. We've got Wes Streeting on the right. Now, tell me if I'm right or I'm wrong. Wes Streeting's in a really difficult position. Yes, he was brave enough, as your article says, to go to the Prime Minister and say, I support you. But if you leave or are forced out, I want you to know I'm standing. I'd say that's that, but that's good politics. I get that. But he cannot, can he, allow it to go to a membership vote, because Wes Streeting will not, he's a Blairite, he will not win the membership vote, who are crying out for what Rayner and Burnham want. But the tax thing isn't sorted with Rayner, Burnham's not even in Parliament, and so there's this standoff. So the thing that I thought before this morning was that they all want Starmer to stay for a couple of months while they all got their eggs in line, or eggs in the basket, whatever the phrase is, I can't remember. But you think Wes Streeting's actually got a shot at this now, don't you?
Yeah, because you're half right. You're absolutely right. That's not bad. Basically, it's not that Wes Streeting does not think he stands a chance if the contest goes to the Labour membership. Right, Wes Streeting is actually quite popular with Labour members, particularly Labour members in London, who form a very significant bulk of the Labour membership as a whole. So it's not that. What he is calculating, and this is where you're absolutely right, his chances are significantly increased if he's not in a contest in which he has to run against Andy Burnham. Right, that's the thing. If Andy Burnham were to be in Parliament and were to run, everybody believes Andy Burnham would beat all comers. So where you're absolutely right,
timing,
where Streeting does want an immediate contest, or frankly, a contest on any time frame in which Andy Burnham cannot participate, it's not quite true that he doesn't. Wes Streeting is not thinking he will benefit from a coronation. If we were to get into a coronation scenario, it would almost certainly be in relation to someone, another member of the cabinet, one of what are being called the greybeards, or whatever the female equivalent of greybeard is in the cabinet. And I think that is a scenario that we will see maybe play out in the next few days, which says we can't afford the infighting, we can't afford the turmoil, we can't afford to have a full-blown leadership contest. Let's have, I think it will be presented as, you know, some sort of caretaker prime minister or somebody from the cabinet.
Until when? Until when?
The argument will be, let's get somebody in for 12, 18 months who can just steady the ship, with the argument that if they get in and do a good job, then they'll get the job permanently. So
but the point to that is all I'm saying about, and I thought that before about Healey, but the argument is you cannot take out of the mix whether or not people say publicly that the party and the country is the most important thing. There is personal ambition. Wes Streeting wants to be Prime Minister. Andy Burnham wants to be Prime Minister. That's not. Are they going to sit down and allow a caretaker to just come from nowhere?
There are two things. If the rest of the cabinet were to turn around and collectively agree on a candidate, then it's very, very hard in those circumstances for Wes Streeting to stand up and say, no, it's got to be me instead. Similarly, if the rest of the cabinet stand up and agree a candidate, then there's nothing Andy Burnham can do because he's not in Parliament.
Yeah.
So now, I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination that's a likely outcome. But what I am saying is I think one of the things that has been missing from this debate is people are talking exclusively about Wes, Angela and Andy. But at the point, and we're obviously going to reach that point very shortly in the next 24, 48 hours, where Starmer has to say something, either resigns in the short term or sets out a timetable for going in the long term. At that point, you are going to see other members of the cabinet putting their names forward.
Here's a great question. Sorry, even by my own standards. Whoever they get, you can't save Labour now, can you? Not after last Thursday, no way.
No, I think it is possible to save Labour. Okay. Yeah, for a number of reasons. Firstly, whoever comes in, certainly in the short term, is going to improve Labour's chances simply because they're not Keir Starmer. Right, the reality is, you know this, your viewers know this, I know this, traveling around the country, local elections and prior to that. Keir Starmer, for whatever reason, is a uniquely despised Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. I mean, on a level I personally have not experienced before, and as I've said frequently on this programme, frankly don't understand, but that's the reality. So if he goes, Labour will get a boost. The second thing, what I personally was finding is, you obviously had Zia on just before me. Yes, obviously incredibly good results for reform in these local elections, but on any reading of the results, even those results, reform would be well short of an overall majority, and all the assessment of that is, and that is clear from all the analysis of the results. That wasn't actually the situation we were in in last year. I remember coming on this programme and talking about polling, which was showing for the first time reform could win an outright majority. Nigel could win a majority. And when I was in the northeast, which went completely blanket reform, what I noticed for the first time was that the people up there were actually saying, look, obviously I'm going to vote for Nigel, obviously I'm going to vote for reform because I can't vote Labour. But they were starting to have some concerns, some doubts. The shine is starting to come off reform a little, in my view.
I mean, I think that's a really... My point would be, and listen, I do the show and try and keep it as open-minded as possible, but my answer to that would be I completely agree with you. There were about 150 opinion polls that grow, and then it sort of bottomed out. Completely get that. I think if you look at those results that are on screen and in the cold light of day, I think reform are now central to the argument. If that was a national poll, they would have ended up with about 285 seats. But I think you also have to step back and think from 5 to 285 is absolutely extraordinary.
Oh, it's an amazing... No, it's an amazing.
And you could also argue that what I think is really central to the whole argument, I mean, the Tories, Badenoch said they'd done well. I don't quite know how that... the flatlining Liberal Democrats, I'm not really interested. I think the Greens thing, and you and I have been equally scathing about Zach Polanski's lied again last night, Ministry of Justice, they found out. You know, the Reform Party will hope the Greens campaign starts to dissipate under Polanski. Polanski will continue to hope that Labour continue to go. Somebody new in might give Labour a boost. We probably will be 2.5 years down the line, Dan, in the same position, but we actually don't know. Somebody could rise to the top. What I do think is important is, and I take everybody's view on this, even Polanski said it, politics changed forever last Thursday. I think the two main parties are never going to have that total... You voted one or the other, and that was the way of the world. It's gone. That's gone.
I agree. We may well not see that go back to the traditional domination. I'm just talking about the actual parliamentary arithmetic. I cannot, from this point, see a scenario, even with a new leader, which the Labour Party transforms their fortunes to the extent they win the majority in the next election. But we are like, you know, sort of 3 years out from that. But I can see a scenario. You were talking about the Greens. I can potentially see a scenario where Labour could potentially cobble together some sort of coalition. We're slightly getting off the Starmer subject, but the point is, my own view at the moment is I am not yet prepared to say I think Labour are dead. But with the one proviso, obviously, if they carry on with Keir Starmer even for another 6 months or so, then they obviously are dead. But I do think, as I've said before, the problem is Keir Starmer is such a uniquely distorting prism within British politics because he is so disliked and despised.
Does he know that, Dan, do you think? Serious question.
No, I don't think he does. And in fairness to him, he can't, can he? No. I mean, you know, if you know, I'm sure you and I have both had our experiences of not exactly being flavour of the month.
We do have that in common, Dan.
And we know what it's like. And the point is, you can't get up in the morning when you're getting absolute pelters or getting absolute criticism for mistakes you've made, or even mistakes you haven't made, but perception of mistakes. When people disagree with you, you can't get up and say, "Oh my God, everybody hates me," because you just wouldn't get out of bed in the morning.
Completely agree.
That is magnified. So he has to have a process mechanism to shut it out. Plus, you know, we can see it. We can see the extent now that Downing Street has become a bunker and no light is being able to enter.
Do you think anybody in Downing Street has got the balls? We spoke to Guta Harry earlier, who was talking about the last days of Boris. And do you think that anybody in number 10 has either thought about informing Starmer of the reality of his existence, or sticking their head above the parapet, or saying, "Did you see Dan Hodges' tweet, for example?" Do you think? I mean, I'm being. Do they just all pander to a prime minister?
No, this is an interesting. This is an interesting thing, and I know it's going to sound ridiculous, and it probably is ridiculous. But if you look at the response that we've had from him since the absolute the absolute drubbing, in which the clear message from the British people was, we don't like you, we want radical change, you're not delivering change, we want you to go. What has Keir Starmer's response been to that? It's been to say, one, tough, I'm not going anywhere. Secondly, you tell me you want change, right? Here's Harriet Harman and Gordon Brown. 3, you want me gone? Well, guess what? I'm going to go on for 10 years. Oh, and by the way, all of you people within the Parliamentary Labour Party were saying, I have to be more open up, I have to be more inclusive. You're telling me you want Andy Burnham back. Tough, I'm not bringing him back. Those are the 4 key responses we've had. Oh, and we're obviously now going to get a speech in which he's going to say, we have to be really radical, but I want to go back move towards Europe, but I don't want to move back towards Europe, yada, yada, yada. Every single thing he's done has massively undermined what was already. We're seriously wondering if there are some people around him in Downing Street who are genuinely now trying to undermine him in some way. Because
I'm with you. There is such
it's incomprehensible.
There must be people, and we must move on and say, but there must be people, right? Don't laugh at me when I say this. There must be people that are quite like him. I mean, hopefully, some people get on with him. If I saw somebody I had a good relationship with, right, literally up a creek without any paddle, in fact, without a boat, in fact, with the water rising, you'd sort of say, mate, listen, don't kill the messenger, but, you know, time is up. I mean, it's so obvious that he's either, and of course people will label it arrogance. It's delusional, man. It's utterly delusional.
But when you're saying, I mean, it defies analysis. We saw Keir Starmer going out. He was sent out by his team on Friday to say consistently what people. I've heard the British people in the elections. What they've said is they're frustrated about the pace of change. They want change. They want us to accelerate change. They want radical change. Literally 10 hours later, what do we see? We see Gordon Brown bowling up on the steps of Downing Street and Harriet Harman bowling up. Now, how is it that the people around him, on the one hand, said to him, go out and push the message change, and then tomorrow, put your arm around Harriet Harman and Gordon Brown?
It's unbelievable. Listen, mate, we're going to keep an eye on this all week, and no doubt we'll be begging you to come on. Great stuff in the Mail today. Keep it locked on to Talk. Keep reading the Mail and the Sun. We need to get this story out there. Dan Hodges, thank you very much indeed. 20 minutes to 9 o'clock. In a minute, Isabel Oakeshott. We've also got Paul Richards, ex-Labour advisor, ahead of 9 o'clock. Matt, good morning.
Morning, Jezza. Matt in Warrington. Not loading the van today. It's my birthday, so I've took a day off. Well, it's all going to happen in the next couple of days. It's all going to kick off. They've had a weekend to plot and scheme against Starmer. So I reckon it'll be gone by the end of May, and we'll have a general election. So we'll see what happens. But let Angry Angela Rayner do her stuff. Let her stir the pot. Anyway, mate, great show.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 17 minutes to 9. I can't tell the talk time even. This is Talk. Julia Hartley-Brewer from 10, Ian Collins from 1, and Kevin O'Sullivan on Drive from 4 o'clock. That's your lineup. Jez, John from Poole. I would estimate there are probably around 20 million sensible, logical thinking grown-ups in the UK, and Angela Rayner is one of the best we've got to offer. Can you imagine anyone? Can anyone imagine us sitting next to Donald Trump having a sensible conversation? I can't. Cheers, mate. I think that... All right, Donald, how are you, love? I bought you a bap or a balm. Paul's in Fife. Beautiful. So Starmer never dreams. This is true. Apparently he doesn't dream. He is either an android or a liar. Any psychologist will tell you that dreaming is a human condition. It's part of the brain process. Everybody on the planet dreams. In fact, some animal experts tell us that animals dream. But, of course, Keir Starmer doesn't. The guy is a moron. Good start. Isabel Oakeshott, a very good morning to you.
Good morning. I'm sure animals do dream. Have you not seen your dog kind of smiling in their sleep?
I haven't got a dog, but if I saw a dog smiling in its sleep, I would think it had wind, to be honest.
Well, that's a very warped way of looking at smiles. Jeremy, when you smile, does it mean that you have wind?
It generally does at my age. I'm trying to. How did we get on to my bowel movements? Anyway, lovely.
You started it.
Yeah, I did. Yes, you finished it. Welcome. Busy morning as ever. Extraordinary. All sorts of people on stage, all saying exactly the same thing, which is this man is deluded. We've got a speech in a little over an hour that'll be on in Julia's show of a Prime Minister who's just suffered the worst drubbing in the history of any Prime Minister at the local election polls. The vultures are circling on the left and the right. The country has him as the most unpopular Prime Minister ever. And his response over the weekend, as Dan Hodges quite rightly said, Isabel, was to say, I've listened, I'm ready for a reset. Hello, Gordon Brown. Hello, Harriet Harpoon, or whatever her name is. And I'm staying for 10 years, and I'm going to tell everybody on Monday that Labour is an optimistic party, and don't worry, we're going to rejoin the EU in some form or other. The man's mad, Isabel.
I actually agree with Dan Hodges on much of his analysis. And one thing in particular that I've said before is that Starmer's responses to the national mood get it so consistently wrong and so consistently make his position worse that it has come to the point, and for me it came to this point a long time ago, that you've got to wonder whether there are people inside Downing Street in his inner circle who are literally deliberately trying to sabotage him.
But can I jump in and say to you, and I should have said it to Dan, even if I agreed with both of you on that point, and you probably would be right, anybody with any political nous at all would know that those words were wrong. You could read The Country yourself if you read a newspaper or opened your bloody eyes, couldn't you?
I agree, but he's never had that judgment. I said before he became Prime Minister, when I just remember, I'll never forget watching him when News UK was hosting him for some big political debate in the run-up to the general election. And I remember looking at him and thinking, this guy is going to be the most despised Prime Minister in my lifetime. And sure enough, that is what's happened. There is something about him that is incredibly grating. And Dan Hodges was saying just now, it sounds as if he was out campaigning a lot and he was knocking on doors, and he was sort of saying, I can't understand why Keir Starmer is so despised. Well, I don't find that difficult to understand at all, because he seems to be completely disconnected from not even ordinary people, really from everybody.
Just from reality. And my point is this. Whether or not, I mean, you wouldn't have been around this morning, but Steve Baker made the most amazing analogy. He said that the thing is, Jez, when you become an MP, you sort of get high on the first smell of weed, and then when you become a minister, you quite like cocaine. But when you become Prime Minister, just addicted to heroin or crack or whatever, and you don't want to let go. I don't know whether he's obsessed with his job or... I've always put it a bit like you. I don't see anything in his DNA, in his reaction, in his body language. There's nothing. I want him to shout, scream, cry. I don't know. I want some... He's just a boring man. And if you do what he did, which is to spend an awful lot of time carping from the sidelines, and of course I totally understand that there will be people who will say, you know, the Conservative Party were a disgrace. They were. an absolute shambles in the end. But it's almost like you get on by default, because this man, there's nothing there. It's like a hollow sort of... And presumably, with that comes delusionment. I don't know. Do you think he'll go this week, today, tomorrow? What's your thoughts?
It does sound very much like it's going to be impossible for him to hold on. There's so many parts moving now, aren't there? And when I saw those results, the bottom line is Labour MPs know that they cannot go into the next election with this guy. They just can't. They're all going to lose their seats. So then the question is, if not now, then when?
Yeah.
This is the best opportunity for them to strike. And just one more thing that I should add, Jeremy, never underestimate how many MPs of all parties want to be Prime Minister. Yeah. It is a vanishingly rare thing for a politician to get in and just be happy being a backbencher. They pretty much all think they could do it. And now is a moment of maximum opportunity for those Labour figures that are circling, the vultures that are circling, with the exception of Andy Burnham, who's basically got himself into a corner here, hasn't he? Because he can't get back in.
Well, it was quite interesting laying it out about how Streeting doesn't want it to go to a vote. Of course, he'd like to be anointed, which is why he's told the Prime Minister he'll only stand if the other one goes nicely. You've got Rayner rallying the left. Burnham's not in Parliament. They would be terrified of a Blairite taking over, and Streeting wouldn't want to go up against somebody from the left. Dan Hodges, which I'd love you to take on, he says that as a result of that standoff, somebody could come from nowhere.
Well, what I picked up on what he said was that he was suggesting that there could be some kind of temporary agreement with a caretaker Prime Minister. I think that would be a catastrophe for the Labour Party. I mean, it would suit Reform very well indeed.
And the country.
If you were just to put someone in there with a kind of coronation, but saying, well, it's only a temporary crown, what do you think voters are going to do? There's going to be an absolute clamour.
I didn't say it to Dan. I can say it to you though, mate. And I've said this to Reform, I've said it to... I don't believe you can change party and not have an election. I don't believe you can certainly be Prime Minister without a mandate from the people, and I'm not changing that view. That is where I stand on that. I think it is fundamentally and morally wrong. They'll say to me, no, Jez, no, Labour won. No. Keir Starmer wrote a manifesto and they lied about it. He was the figurehead. He won the election. People will ring me up now and say, you're wrong. I don't think you can govern, right, if the people haven't made a decision about you. Fact. Can't have it.
But I think they all know that if there is a coronation, and either way, we the voters don't get to choose in this, not unless we're members of the Labour Party and trade unions and so on. But if there is a coronation, then there will be massive instability in the markets, because the markets will wonder, how long have we got to price in this character, whoever this character is? Is this for 6 months? Is there going to be another contest later on? So I think that would be a disaster for the country. I think it would be potentially very good for parties that want an election sooner rather than later. And just to pick up on all this sort of narrative amongst the commentariat about, Reform didn't do quite as well as expected. If this were translated into a general election, you've cited some figures this morning, 200 and whatever you said, 80 something MPs. Who knows how Reform will do when an election finally comes? But it is a nonsense to transpose the results of local elections onto a national result for the very reasons that you just said just now. That when people are voting in a general election, they are voting for a Prime Minister.
Absolutely.
They're not voting for who's going to fix the potholes. And on this particular set of results, I mean, a few people might have been voting on immigration, which is the number one rallying kind of appeal of Reform, but a lot of people will have been voting on local causes.
Couldn't agree more. Love you so much. Thank you for coming on. Isabel Oakeshott, as ever, our international editor. Brilliant. 8 minutes to 8. Let's try and balance it, or even 9. Don't worry, I'm an hour out. Paul Richards is a former Labour Special Advisor. Paul, welcome to Talk Breakfast. How are you?
Hello, good morning. Well, thank you.
You must be feeling very miserable today. Your Prime Minister's going to have to go, isn't he?
I don't believe he will. This is an unpopular and unfashionable view, but I think he'll survive not only the day, but probably the next few months or even years. And you yourself said why. It's because in the British Constitution, And in our parliamentary democracy, it's Parliament that is sovereign, not opinion polls, not who you voted for your county councillor, certainly not social media, but who Parliament chooses. And right now, he has got the majority of the Labour MPs still on side. So few have come out in the last couple of days, I'm surprised. And he's got the bulk of the PLP with him. And that's how we choose our prime ministers. We don't tear them down when they do badly in local elections. Otherwise, we would have got rid of Thatcher in 1980 and we'd have got rid of Blair in 1999, but we didn't, because the parliamentary system chooses the prime minister.
You would have to accept he is the least popular prime minister forget me, I'm talking about amongst your voting base, the most unpopular prime minister that there has ever been. He came distinctly with no plan and won an election because of how despised the Tories were. He's been found out. Labour Party members don't like this. 17 U-turns. He's lied to the faces of pensioners and farmers and waspy women. But that aside, you'll say to me, as they all do, he was right on the Iran war. Yeah, he was. Not on the basis, but he was. And that's about the only thing I can come up with. But I want to ask you something else. DNA, Paul. Just the person. I know people go, oh, he's a robot. I don't feel, I wouldn't mind if he got angry, if he got hacked off, if he cried, if he laughed. There's nothing about this man that screams, whatever our political differences, that I think he either has the nous or the desire or the balls or whatever the word is, to just, I mean, for example, you know the Andy Burnham thing? Do you know what I'd do if I was Keir Starmer? I'd let the bugger stand in Manchester because I know he hasn't got a chance of winning a seat in Manchester. I'd put him right in his place, but he doesn't. Tries to be all things to all people, and they're going to get him as a result of that. You've got to see that.
Well, of course, Starmer is a human being, and he does cry and laugh and have feelings and all the rest of it. But, you know, when he comes across in public, it's a stable, sensible leader. And after all the game show we've had for the last few years, and
but you can't keep Paul, you can't keep talking about the Tory party. They're done. The game show, the humiliation, the embarrassment is right on Keir Starmer. Come on, it's not about the Tories anymore. It's not.
Jeremy, whatever the voters were telling us on Thursday, it is not go into an internecine war with ourselves, look inwards, have a new leader, get a sort of game show going. Great for you guys, but not great for the bond markets and for the country.
Do you think that the country... All right, let me put it like this. No. It's not about us, guys. That's a ridiculous comment. Do you think for the country, for the working men and women of this country and the bond markets and our international standing, do you think that Keir Starmer's the best person for the job?
Absolutely, I do. And I think the alternative of a plunge into chaos is the last thing we need right now, with all the uncertainty in the world that you've just alluded to there. The idea that the Labour Party turns in on itself for the next few months and has a sort of a war, with all the media looking on and the public just scratching their heads saying, what the hell are you doing? That's pretty much the last thing we should do as a result of this defeat.
Do you think he's a competent, good Prime Minister then?
Well, I do, absolutely. I think he is a stable hand after we've had months and years of chaos.
How can you call him a stable hand, Paul? I don't want to disagree with you too much, but how can you call a man... Just one example. He lied to the faces of waspy women. He told them they'd get their money. He went to the National Farmers Union and lied. He lied to the old people in terms of their heating allowance. How is that a successful Prime Minister? Explain to me, because I don't get that.
Well, the government will be judged on its ability to get growth in the economy. So the speech today is going to be about a turn to Europe, for example, and more trade for Europe. He secured a trade deal with the US and with India. He's respected on the world stage for rearming Europe and getting us back into a place where we can defend ourselves. And he has a massive majority in the House of Commons, which is why I return to my theme.
He couldn't even get £5 billion of welfare cuts through. He is a prisoner, held prisoner by his own backbenchers.
Well, answer me this then. Why have so few of them come out and demanded his head?
You're an ex-special advisor, and you'd know far more than me that every single politician plays their cards to suit themselves. And I suspect, I could be wrong, and listen, we haven't got much time, but I think a lot of them will play their cards. Paul, really important on this show to get all sides. You say he's the man for the job. We will wait and see what happens. We're very grateful for you. Former Labour advisor Paul Richards, they're almost 9 o'clock. We're live across the UK. Jacob Rees-Mogg live from Westminster next on Talk Breakfast.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Me following the migrants went from sort of 10 in the morning all around the clock to late at night, to the point where on buses, on trains, through streets, at every key point, French military police and the French police, they were there. They were on the bus, taking down notes, taking pictures, but not doing anything to deter the migrants or stop them, just being there.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Just gone 9 o'clock. We're live across the UK. This is Talk, of course, the home of common sense and the home of the alarm clock. Brit, JK with breakfast till 10. Julia Hartley-Brewer. And don't forget, at 10 o'clock this morning, there's only one story in town. The Prime Minister, on the back of the worst drubbing that any incumbent government has ever experienced locally, losing over about 1,500 councillors last week and 38 councillors. The vultures are circling. Last night, Angela Rayner, a ferocious sort of slagging off of the government and what they stand for, talking for a movement to the left, wanting Andy Burnham in Parliament. We got Wes Streeting. Many newspapers reporting today he's been to see the Prime Minister and said, I wouldn't knife you. I'm not like that. But if you do choose to go, I want you to know I'm going to stand. Labour MPs popping up, disappearing, doing whatever. Nobody knows what's going to happen. The basis of I'm going to change for you all over the weekend from Sir Keir Starmer was to bring back Gordon Brown, who sold all the gold in 2015 at a price it shouldn't have been sold at and got sacked. Harriet Harman, who... I don't know how long she's been an MP for, but he's brought her back. Something to do with women, equality and rights. Not sure what that means of Jess Phillips. But anyway, bottom line, he's going to give a speech at 10 o'clock where he's saying, despite the fact he's the most hated man that's ever been Prime Minister, seriously, that's what records say, we are an optimistic party. We're not as a nation, though, mate. And what's going to happen is, I know how I'm going to get you back on side. I'm going to get closer to Europe. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we voted to leave Europe. That's irrelevant. Just to give you an idea of delusion, Peter Kyle, absolutely no relation in the name of the Lord, has been on our sister station Times this morning, won't come on in, and said, I know that the people of Great Britain will forgive us and will change their minds. So, what planet are these people from? 0344 419 1000, text to 87222. I think it's highly ironic that my next voice note is from a bloke called Daggers. I wonder who today is going to stab Starmer between the shoulder blades. Morning, Daggers.
Yeah, Starmer's going on about we need change and we're not doing it fast enough and all this lot. He's right. We do need change, but the change we need is not the change they're offering. The change we need is a stop to migration, deportation of all the illegal immigrants that are here, a review of all the people who've been given the right to leave to remain, is it? That's it, leave to remain. We need to smash this welfare bill. I mean, it's got to be slashed in half at least, because we can't afford to keep going like this. It's ridiculous. Paying more for the welfare than we actually bring in taxes. The mind just boggles, doesn't it, mate? Starmer's got to go. We need a general election.
Here's a man who knows everything constitutionally. I love, honestly, the first time I met this man, I was slightly in awe, still a little bit in awe. Brilliant. Live from Sir College Green, what did I say there? Oh, live from Millbank, got that wrong. Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg, a very good morning. How are you, sir?
Good morning. I didn't realise you were a cousin of Mr. Kyle.
I am not.
Or not, as
Jacob,
the case may be.
Don't start. Don't start. That reminds me of the nanny comment from you last time with me. No. Nothing to do with Peter Kyle at all. Never. Not in a million years, man. Stop laughing. Jacob, you're one of those people who knows about what I would call parliamentary procedure and party procedure. We hear repeatedly that the Conservative Party, you know, they have this format, the 1922 backbench committee, the chairman or person you have to say nowadays, and you could put a secret letter in saying, I haven't got confidence in the Prime Minister. If he gets to a certain number, he's duty-bound in his grey suit to go to the back door of 10 Downing Street and say, Prime Minister, you've lost the support of the party, blah, blah, blah. The Labour Party have spent many months telling anybody who's asked that we don't get rid of Prime Ministers. But today, if you read, listen and speak to many people, it seems that that might change forever, and it is indeed D-Day for Keir Starmer. What's your take, Jacob?
Yes, I think you're right. And I think in these circumstances, it doesn't matter that much what the rules say if everybody comes to the same view at once, that both Boris Johnson and Liz Truss ought to have been unchallengeable under the 1922 committee's rules at the point at which they were forced out. And Boris found his ministers resigned, and Liz just found forces were so strongly against her, she stood down. So the details of the rules are important in terms of building up the pressure, but in the end, if everyone's fed up with somebody, that person is removed from Downing Street, and it looks as if this speech is hopeless before it's even been delivered. That the hopey changey stuff that we seem to be getting is what you do in opposition when you're setting out your grand ideas and your ideology, not when you've been in government for 2 years. And being at the heart of Europe was a phrase used by John Major, whose premiership ended in ignominy. So I don't see how this speech is going to reset things for Starmer.
I couldn't agree more. And you know, it's just this... It's almost delusional. You know, on the back of that, I mean, massive drubbing last week, his response was, I'm going to serve for another 10 years. And if his idea of a reset, with the greatest of respect, is to bring back Gordon Brown and Harriet Harman, even if I was a Labour voter, which is not because I ever would be or am indeed related to Peter Carr, I'd be thinking, give me something tangible. There's nothing. I don't think, and this isn't, I don't mean to be rude to him. I don't think I've come across a politician in my time of doing this who has less political DNA in his being than any other politician I've ever spoken to. I don't think he gets it, Jacob.
No, I agree with you. I think it is completely delusional. It's extraordinary that he brings back two people who were last in government in 2010. It's as if Margaret Thatcher, when she faced difficulties, had brought back Alec Douglas-Home. Yeah. It just doesn't register on the scale of odd decisions. And the strange thing about Starmer is that he makes all the mistakes previous Prime Ministers made individually together. So Margaret Thatcher said she'd go on and on and on, which was part of the reason people were determined to get rid of her. He said 10 more years of Starmer, which is lunatic. I mean, there's no way he's going to be Prime Minister for 10 years. He then does the Rishi Sunak thing of bringing back an old hand. That hasn't helped him either. He then thinks he can reset his premiership by making another speech. If you want uplifting oratory that really changes the mood of the nation, do you really ask Keir Starmer to speak?
God, no, mate. Is he desperate in your mind?
I think he's undignified at this stage. I think David Cameron, when he resigned after Brexit, recognised that the country had gone against him and that therefore he'd lost his authority to govern. And his departure was an honourable one. Nothing became him in his political life so much as the leaving of it. Keir Starmer is failing in that he should clearly have gone after the local elections results. He should have come out on probably Saturday morning when we'd got the Scottish and the Welsh results and said, look, I've heard what the country's got to say, clearly doesn't want me, I believe in the Labour Party and I think somebody else can do a better job. That would have had dignity, it would have been honourable, and instead he's clinging on desperately to power, like Gordon Brown after the 2010 election. Do you remember when he was holed up in Downing Street, desperately trying to work out if he could get a coalition with anybody and everybody to stay in? And this doesn't impress people, it doesn't boost support, it just makes him look bit weak and a bit delusional.
Or as Steve Baker put very brilliantly to me this morning, that few people want to leave the trappings of Prime Minister. It's like an addiction. Jacob, somebody said something earlier that I'm interested in. It was Dan Hodges from the Mail to put to you. Listen, you're an intelligent man, you've done everything, I'm just sat here. I don't understand how this man manages to get almost every decision that even to me, it's so obvious what he needs to do, so fundamentally wrong. Dan said it's getting to the point where certain people in the media are thinking that he's so lacking in political judgment and so dependent on advisors that you could actually advance the theory that the advisors themselves are giving him advice so that he falls on his backside every time he opens his mouth. And I sort of, you sit there and think maybe that's a suggestion that holds some merit. I don't know.
I doubt that's true, because that would be quite a conspiracy theory. The problem is he sacks all his advisors for faults that he himself has made, and therefore it becomes increasingly difficult for people to give him sensible advice, because whatever advice you give him, you're the one who's fired, and therefore you just tell him he's marvellous and everybody loves him, and it's, you know, as if he were in a bunker and trying to avoid all the bad news. But Dan Hodges is quite right, and his commentary on all of this has been absolutely fascinating as somebody who knows the Labour Party so well. I've been reading him very carefully. But he's right that Starmer just makes more mistakes than anybody else. He is completely unpolitical, but he's also, well, one has a feeling, desperately over-promoted. He wasn't a very good director of public prosecutions. He missed all sorts of obvious things. He prosecuted a huge number of journalists, most of whom were acquitted by juries in the end, or the cases collapsed. So I think he's one of those people who's managed to project an image of competence and steadiness, whilst in fact being incompetent and unsteady throughout his career.
Who do you think, if the inevitable, which people say could happen, I mean, we've seen Angela Rayner, that statement last night. It's really interesting for me, the dynamic, because you've got Rayner on one hand and Burnham. One's not an MP and one's upset the taxman. And on the other side, you've got Streeting, who desperately doesn't want it to go to a vote amongst Labour members because he would not. He wants to be anointed. You've got this Catherine West woman who's jumped up and down and said, I'm going to be a stalking horse today. Has somebody put her up to that? I don't know. If it does happen, who's our next Prime Minister, Jacob?
Well, I don't think it's Andy Burnham, because I don't see how he can win a by-election. On the results last week, Labour wouldn't win a by-election anywhere. No. So I think all the talk about Burnham is fanciful, and they should recognise his by-election chances are very, very low, and that to have him stand, create the mayoral election in Manchester and then lose would be very damaging to the Labour Party. I think some people who say they back Burnham know that it's very unlikely he can get in. It's sort of code for change. I think Catherine West is rather impressive. She's not a household name, but I remember her being very active in the chamber, regularly appearing, speaking out for her constituents, proper, diligent, loyal backbench MP. And when somebody like that is coming out, that's important.
But difficult for her to stand up today and give, I don't disrespectfully mean this, somebody said it earlier, are 81 MPs prepared to put their name and say, I think Catherine West is a better prime ministerial prospect than Keir Starmer?
Well, I think she obviously would be, but then I think the Downing Street cat would be a better Prime Minister opportunity than
Larry?
Keir Starmer. Larry's seen a thing or two. But I agree with you. I don't think she's going to be a contender. Angela Rayner is charismatic, has a strong following, and I don't think her supporters really care about HMRC. I've long thought, though, that the dark horse is Ed Miliband. He's been leader before. He is somebody who knows how government works. That doesn't mean he does things that I want him to do by any means, but he knows how to make his department follow his policy. He's a competent administrator in fulfilling his aims. He's very popular in the membership of the Labour Party. He would beat Wes Streeting in front of the members by a country mile. I think he's the dark horse who is waiting there to be the unifier.
But there's the point, and you're probably right. You know more about the machinations than I'll ever know. But this is a man, and I want to get your opinion on this. This is the man who was roundly thrown to the wolves by the British public when he stood for government, exactly as Gordon Brown was when he sold all the gold. What that leads me to say is something that isn't very keen. Some people that have defected to reform don't like this. People in the Tory party don't. You're going to tell me constitutionally I'm wrong. I don't think anybody taking over that job has a right to govern without a general election. You're going to tell me the Labour Party won a manifesto, but a Prime Minister puts his name to everything, and I don't think has the credibility. Much as I've also said, Jacob, which doesn't always go down well with people, I don't think you can change parties in the middle of a parliament and tell your however many thousand people that voted for you as a Tory or a Reformer or a Liberal Democrat, I've decided to change my mind. I would feel cheated as a voter if my MP did that.
Yeah, well, I agree with you on both counts. I think that the evolving constitutional mood is that a new Prime Minister requires a new election.
Yeah.
It was a mistake of Gordon Brown not to have one. Theresa May and Boris Johnson both went to one. Liz/Rishi didn't, and that didn't help them. I think people felt that they'd voted for Boris Johnson, not for an individual Member of Parliament. I think people vote for a leader and for a party. It's the leader who has the mandate, and if you change the leader, you need a new mandate. And I completely agree with you on if you change party, you should fight a by-election. You're cheating your voters. Having stood for Parliament many times, I know that people weren't voting for me, Jacob Rees-Mogg. They were voting for the Conservative Party and the leader under whose banner I was fighting. And it's a vanity to think that there's more than a couple of hundred votes for the individual MP.
Couldn't agree more. So just to circle round and bring it to a close, love having you on. Does he last the week?
I can't see how he does. I mean, this so reminds me of when I was... I mean, I rather admire your cousin Peter, as I now like to call him.
He is not my cousin Peter. Jacob Rees-Mogg, I am nothing whatsoever to do with Peter Kyle. This is going to destroy my credibility. I'm finished, Rees-Mogg.
All right, I admire what your non-cousin Peter has been doing today on the morning round.
Yeah.
When you have to go out and defend a leader, and you know it's all collapsing, I admire that type of loyalty. But it's also quite a difficult thing to do, and he's doing it rather well, competently, with a very weak case to make, much weaker case than I had for Boris. But it smells of desperation and defeat, doesn't it? That it looks as if it's all over for Starmer. It's interesting that this is the week of the King's speech, because the King's speech is going to be Keir Starmer's speech as he's on his way out. So I'm afraid the King's speech becomes slightly pointless.
Which is probably what you could say for this administration right now. Anyway, I must go. Do you know why? Because I'm going to get my own back on you, Jacob Rees-Mogg. I'm going to get your sister on before 10 o'clock and find some deep secret I can put out there.
Excellent.
Peter Kyle, excellent. Keep listening. We love having you on, my friend. Thank you so much indeed. Former Conservative Government Minister, love him. Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg on Talk Breakfast. Let's go to the phone lines. Hertfordshire, Phil, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy. Good morning. Just picking up a couple of things that you said with Dan and also what Jacob has just recently said. I think the majority of the electorate now has shown their hand on what they think of the country. We don't really care who's Prime Minister. It makes no difference to us whatsoever. If we think it's just going to make us laugh more and be like gobsmacked by the most ridiculous, stupid decisions that they're making. But also what Jacob said is, we want results. What are you going to do? The government has turned their back on the British people. Now, regardless of the Prime Minister, I want to see people or whoever's leading us start to look at the British people first, putting them first, putting them at their interest. You know, we need to thrive, not survive.
Let me read you something. Jez, all I want as an OAP, says Christina, is my heating on, my electricity that I can afford to pay for. I want a better cost of living and I want immigration sorted. But most of all, I just wanted to be treated fairly. That's what Christina's just said. It's the point, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, my mother herself, Jeremy, she's in her 80s. She goes to like a little social club. She would like to go once a week, but she's struggling to pay the taxi fare, which we help her for, obviously, so she can go. But she doesn't want to do that because she's a proud lady.
Yeah.
But then we see people, I don't even know what to call them, guests of this country, getting taxis here, there and everywhere for nothing.
And until we have that debate, and we don't have to stand listening to people who say they're all refugees, no, they're not. We have to have the welfare debate until we stop having people in front of us going, you're talking about everybody that's mentally disabled. No, I'm not. I want to support them, and they're missing out because people are gaming every single system we've got. And we've got a government that is more hell-bent on trying to send a message to Europe or look to do the right thing, that is forgetting the very important things that matter in people's lives. Last week in those local elections, I'm sure people talked about national issues, but they cared about potholes, the cost of living, energy prices, how their kids couldn't get into a school, all that sort of stuff. That's what our politicians need to talk about. But while they go running around doing all of this, it gets nobody anywhere. Phil, great to have you on, my friend. Talk Breakfast 9:22. Morning, Wayne.
Good morning, Jezza. So the old ginger growler stuck her head above the parapet and saying the Labour Party needs to go more to the left. Now, we all know she's not the sharpest tool in the box. However, to the left, have you not seen the red wall seats go turquoise? Does she not understand reforms on the right? Can she physically not look at the map of all the elections and see all that swathe of turquoise? And her opinion is we need to go more to the left. Now, I go by Einstein, who turned around and said, to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result is just insanity.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 9:25, live across the UK. I've just heard from the executive producer of this vain attempt at a programme, Christian Mitchell, legend. He's just said that they've been talking to Julia's team. We will be taking, I believe, the speech of his life, Keir Starmer's. I don't want to build it up because it won't be that exciting, I suspect. Unless, of course, he completely surprises us all and resigns. That could happen. Not sure myself. He's actually going to say, we are an optimistic party. I'm going to put Britain at the heart of Europe. It's not because I want a job in Europe when you fire me. It's because I think that's the way forward. Paul Richards, the ex-Labour advisor, alienated a few people. He says, Linda says, Paul Richards says that Starmer's speech today is all about growth and closer ties with the EU. This is part of his problem. He does what he wants and not what the country voted for. Why doesn't the country want him? Because he treats the electorate with total disdain. Alan says, you know this speech at 10 o'clock, is this going to be a reset of the reset of the reset of the reset that we're resetting that was once reset? Fantastic. Margaret, I don't know why I do that with Margaret. If there was a general election in the next few months, Reform would win by a country mile. We are crying out for someone who is strong, competent and a patriot. That is Nigel Farage. Lee says, morning, Jez, what people are missing is that Burnham will need to face election as an MP, and it is not a given that he would win. Lee from Great Yarmouth. Here's an interesting thing. People are saying that if the self-styled messiah of Manchester stood in Manchester, polling would say absolutely what Lee says, that he'd actually lose. Clayton in Dartford, the Liatoller. This is earlier. We found out that Keir Starmer doesn't dream. Liatoller, of course he doesn't dream. Robot shut down for the night. Roger's in Wales. Hello, Rog. Oh, lovely. Don't know why, not just saying. Starmer may not dream, but he's given the rest of us a bloody nightmare. Jez, Starmer is no Bruce Willis. He's more like Hans Gruber clinging onto the edge of Nakatomi Plaza Tower in Die Hard. His grip is slipping and he's just about to fall. At that point, we can all celebrate. Great show, says Mr. B. Woodchurch. Now, we're not celebrate. That was an analogy, falling off a building, OK? Did anybody, you know, feel triggered about that? We'll have that. Rob Lane. Rob Lane, Starmer is writing 2 speeches. One is he's not writing it himself, is he? One is a resignation, the other will be a pack of lies. Hopefully it'll be the first one. Hello for Dennis in Aberdare. Does he mean to have put Aberdeen? Where's Aberdare? Aberdare's in Wales, is it? Christian's on again. He has his dad on every morning. Whereabouts is Aberdare, Christian? We all know it's in the middle. We all know Gordon Brown sold the gold. Starmer has tried to give away British territories. He's already given away our fish. He's let Norway take oil from us, even sell it to us. The man's a disgrace. And finally, Keith in Edinburgh. Where's Edinburgh, Christian? Is that in Wales? You don't want me to read that one out? Oh, we don't want Edinburgh, Wales. This is where my daughter lives. Jed, I think that's Scotland. It's a joke, by the way, if you're just going to now text me and go, doesn't he know? It's a joke, you know, through this sea of misery. The Tories are just copying Reform's policies, word for word. Jackie, good morning. I hate to disagree with you, but Stalin did have a plan. Ever since the Brexit referendum, he's worked day and night towards rejoining the EU. Once he's done that, by stealth, he will go, the utterly hateful man. Finally, Lindy Lou. We haven't done much on this today. Zach Polanski has been called out again by, I think, The Telegraph today. Turns out that he lied about working at the Ministry of Justice. I have to be very careful what I say because I get into trouble. But hi, Jez. Has anyone thought that Polanski may have hypnotised himself with his delusions of grandeur whilst he was writing his CV? I mean, it's very, very true. 9:30, don't forget what I just said, the speech of Starmer's life. I don't know how we can call it the speech of his life. 10 o'clock on Talk. Julia and her team will take that live. Let's say a very good morning. Here's a legend. Former political editor of The Sun, Trevor Kavanagh. Welcome to breakfast.
Good morning.
You've got that look I've got. It's coming, baby, isn't it? He's going.
Well, you've asked me before, have I ever seen anything like this, Jeremy? And I've never seen anything like this because it hasn't happened. But what I have seen many times is prime ministers being dragged kicking and screaming out of Downing Street despite all their protestations. And what is clear to those who are seasoned in this sort of job is that there's a smell of death around Downing Street. And I don't think anything can save Keir Starmer now, except the fact that they're terrified that whoever takes over or also the process of taking over will make things even worse. And Angela Rayner's amazing statement, 1,000-word manifesto, shows just what we're in for if the left takes over.
Well, I was going to say that statement last night from Angela Rayner, it was pretty dramatic. It unleashed a ferocious attack on Starmer's record in office, demanding a hard lurch to the left by anybody's standards. She went further and said that his blocking of Andy Burnham had been a catastrophic mistake and you should have your best players on the pitch, which I think I'd agree with. But therein lies the mess in which the Labour Party finds itself, Trevor. And you'd know this politically better than me. I was talking to Dan Hodges earlier. On the one hand, you've got Wes Streeting, the man who purports to say, well, I mean, he said, hasn't he? I think he said, I wanted to be Prime Minister ever since I became aware of politics. That's ambition, that's fine. This is the man who would not win if it was a ballot with members and presumably wants to play it before the left show their hand. He's already said to Starmer, apparently, I will be standing if you go. So he's trying to do the right thing. But don't let's underestimate how much people rush around trying to make sure they're the person. I would question the way he gave that pay rise to doctors without any, you know, things attached to it. But that would be for other people to decide. Then you've got Rayner, who can't, you know, still HMRC bound. You've got Burnham, who's not in Parliament. It's not a given that he'd even win a seat in Manchester, which led several people this morning to say that this could be a dark horse. Thoughts on that, Trevor?
Well, I think that Ed Miliband would actually like the job, but he doesn't dare actually say so because he knows it would frighten the horses. He's already been rejected resoundingly in the 2015 election when everybody thought he was going to win at a time when, in fact, there was no chance, as far as I could see, when our economy was actually booming and we had a jobs miracle and many other things. If he couldn't win as a leader of the opposition after 5 years, having stabbed his brother in the back to get the job, I don't think that he either should or can get it now. And if he does get it, that would surely be the trigger for a general election. You cannot have a man dumped on the electorate who was already rejected by them only a few years ago when he stood legitimately.
I mean, I'm with you, and I've had stand-up arguments even in this building with people who say you don't understand constitutionally what you're talking about. People vote for a party; they don't vote for an individual. But I would respectfully suggest that you know, a leader becomes the focal point. And I'll take it further, Trev. I said to Jacob, I don't believe you should be able to defect and not stand again. I've said that to Reform MPs who've defected. I've said that to Tory MPs. I think that if you represent a group of people who vote for you in that instance, be it as Prime Minister or MP, you have to make sure that you're answerable to them. And Ed Miliband, I say a bit Cooper, Angela Rayner, whoever it is, do not have a mandate from the British people. The Labour Party does, but you could go further and say, if you take Rayner, that the mandate was for Starmer's manifesto. By actively encouraging something completely different, Angela Rayner, that surely is part of our argument as well, isn't it?
Well, I think in the 2024 election, they didn't vote actually very much for Labour. They voted absolutely resoundingly against the Conservative Party and the Conservative government. I mean, Starmer was a non-entity and an anonymous figurehead, even as leader of the opposition for several years. And I think that if you have a resounding majority, but a very shallow one, then you do need to be honest with the voters. And it's a question of trust, really, isn't it? Yeah. You come in with a certain manifesto, which was a bit threadbare and vague and left them wide open. And any promises they did make in that manifesto, they broke within the first few months. So it's not actually the same party that people thought they were voting for in July 2024.
No, I agree with that. What's your view in terms of this week, in terms of timing, in terms of, as you said, something that you've never seen happen? You started this by saying there's a smell of death around Downing Street. I completely agree. How long does he last?
I think it's as long as a piece of string, and the string represents the Labour Party's terror of a general election or the possibility of a leadership turmoil which will make them look even worse in the public eyes. And I think that they're all worried now more about holding on to their jobs for the next 3 years than they are about governing the country.
But I guess the line as well to find about timing, and it is all about timing, and unfortunately it comes down to what suits individuals, is this. How long do they hang on with a man who's doing irreparable damage to their brand and they see their inboxes and people say you haven't got a chance? Or if you then, as you quite rightly say, go for somebody else who hasn't got a mandate, and there could be an election anyway. But, you know, I'm going to sound really harsh. You get what you wish for. They sat in opposition quite rightly at the end and castigated the Tories for cronyism, for this, for that. And their example in 21 months, in my mind, and I'm not sticking up for the Tories, has surpassed even the incompetence of the last 2 years under Sunak. I really mean that. I mean, we've talked before. I'm not a Labour supporter, but after the debacle of the oath, public services are up the Swanee. This is taxes climbing ever higher. The whole... I'm old enough to remember the last time that the Labour Party were in power. And we're not allowed to during broadcasting, during elections. But I wanted to say every day, be careful what you wish for, because it will be a debacle. It's worse than that, isn't it, Trev?
Much worse. I mean, it's always beyond imagination, and it's hard even to recapture the number of U-turns and disasters and pratfalls that this government have committed through their own stupidity and incompetence. But you asked what's going to happen over the next week or so. I think that everything depends upon this speech, which I think is doomed to fail from the beginning. I think that Catherine West will actually pull the plug and decide to try and get the 81 seats. Whether she gets 81 seats or not, simply saying she will stand will be enough to cause a meltdown in the party. And I think that Wes Streeting knows that this is his only chance if he leaves it until there's an orderly transition with Andy Burnham allegedly being able to make the move from Manchester Mayor to a seat in Parliament, which is absolutely a huge risk, could cause even more mayhem. I think that Wes Streeting knows he's got to go now, and I think he will probably declare that within the next few days.
Think he'd be a good Prime Minister?
Well, the problem for Wes Streeting, whatever his abilities are, he stands on the wrong side of the party. The party is now utterly divided. He represents the Blairite wing, and Angela Rayner represents the left, and Andy Burnham is somewhere in the middle. Nobody really knows where he stands. And I think that Wes Streeting's problem is that he's going to come up, if he starts to do things that the country needs doing, like curbing welfare expansion and doing something about the economy and immigration, he will come up against enormous resistance, bitter resistance, actual political semi-violence from wings of the party to which all of those things are anathema, and with which Angela Rayner, who's a very potent voice in the party, is associated.
Isn't it interesting, though, if you look, just to finish, at the two main parties, you look at Labour. We read and analysed so many of the problems within the Tories, the Tory wets, the net zero lurch, the Boris wave, those on the right that would or would not defect to reform. And they are torn apart. Although Kemi Badenoch, I have admiration for her. I think she's the right leader at the wrong time. I don't think they'll be forgiven for 10 years. I genuinely believe that. We're now looking at deep, deep fissures and fractures inside the Labour Party for anybody coming in. Some want to go to the left, some want to stay on the right. And I just wanted to ask you to finish after those local council elections. Is this the death knell for the two-party system last Thursday forever in your mind?
I suspect it is as it stood before the last general election, yes. I think that there will have to be some sort of coalition on the right between Reform and the Tories. I think that's a given now because despite the admirable efforts of Kemi Badenoch in reviving the fortunes of the Conservative Party, they are being revived from a very, very low base and not enough in time for the next general election. So yes, in the interests of the nation, for the sake of the nation, there has to be a deal.
Not after Starmer, but do you think that Nigel Farage, on the basis of last Thursday, can be the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom?
No, absolutely. I think that Labour is more or less finished unless some miracle happens, which is very unlikely. I think it is really a matter of all the hodgepodge of parties, from the Greens through to the Lib Dems to the various nationalist parties, to form some sort of horrible coalition, which won't last. It simply cannot last, or a government led by probably Nigel Farage on the right.
Mate, great to have you on. Thank you so much indeed. No doubt you'll be tuned in from 10 o'clock. The speech of his life is how they're describing it. Keir Starmer will be speaking at 10 o'clock after the debacle of those local elections. They lost nearly 1,500 seats and 38 councils. The Labour Party is in turmoil. The vultures are circling, cabinet ministers on resignation watch, MPs wanting to know which way to go. Starmer's day of reckoning. I hate to call it his speech of his life because it'll be about as I promise you, we'll sit here tomorrow, Chris, and he'll have gone, I know what you want, I'm listening, and we'll all go, oh God. Morning, Ben.
Morning, Jeremy. Ben from Birmingham. I'm just listening to Paul, the ex-Labour advisor. I don't know how he's got he must have rhino skin to sit there with a straight face and say that he thinks Keir Starmer is the best for the British people and everything else. That one statement, apart from all the other ludicrous ones he makes all the time because he's an absolute raging lefty lunatic, that one statement tells me I should never trust a word that comes out of that man's mouth. What an absolute imbecile. Great show.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. So it's the big countdown. This is a public service announcement. Stand by for the main action of the day. 10 o'clock, Keir Starmer is going to make a speech. He's going to paint Labour as an optimistic party and says that we in Britain should embrace Europe closer. That's going to go down really well with the red wall voters, isn't it? That'll be absolutely excellent for him. I'm not feeling sorry. I'm sorry. There's been too many lies and too much prevarication. I feel no sympathy for him at all. It is beginning to unravel. 03444991000. Text to 87222. John, I think Keir Starmer is a fantastic Prime Minister doing a really great job, and during these hard times I think we should respect him for the person he is. You see, says John, we can all lie, and some idiot out there will believe it. He needs to go. Don's in Chelmsford. This is good. Don't know if you've read, peeps, Angela Rayner's 1,000-word speech. Don says, I've just read Rayner's letter. I can only tell you one thing. There is no way on God's earth she wrote it herself. The words... No, I don't know how you say that name. This speech is not the speech of his life, it's the speech of his death. Brilliant. OK, fantastic. Jeremy, don't forget Gordon Brown did not just sell the gold off, he also called a Labour supporter a bigot whilst live on TV as forgot to turn his mic off. I do remember that. And still, according to my old man who's dead, could never tie a tie. 9:45. Tracy, good morning.
Hi, Jezza. I don't think he's going anywhere. I do believe that this is all part of his plan, the 2030 agenda. I don't think he's got any ideas of leaving anytime soon, and he wants us back in with Europe to be, you know, part of Europe and have his Davos buddies with him. Great show. Take care.
Why does everybody sound so miserable? But they do, and I understand why. Let's say a very good morning to Talk's breakfast reporter, Samara Gill. Welcome to the show, Samara. How are you?
I'm great, JK. Great to be with you.
God, speech of his life at 10 o'clock?
Yeah, speech of his life. I mean, Starmer is holding the country hostage at the moment. That's what's very clear here. The people have spoken over the weekend with their vote, and he is still not giving in. And I think that's where people really start to get their backs up. You know, when you've got your own MPs sharpening their knives on national television over the weekend with that random Australian woman who has actually countered him, the random backbencher.
Catherine West.
Catherine West, you have got major issues, okay? It's over. You know, he's not governing Britain. He's trying to survive in his own party. And I think we both had a glimpse at what the press office has sent of the embargoed speech. And it's exactly as you say. It's just this same old drivel and the same gaslighting of the public. He's acting like a North Korean dictator, Jeremy. He's trying to say that every circumstance we feel is not true. And he's also saying that he needs to stay in power to get rid of the chaos. Well, I've got something to say to you, Keir. You are the chaos. Yeah, so absolutely. Please leave.
I couldn't agree more. And I thought after, we haven't spoken since, but after the results on Thursday, and they were pretty cataclysmic. I mean, they were appalling. The worst ones Labour or an incumbent government has ever suffered. And I went with Dan Hodges. You just expect him to come out on Saturday, whoever it was who said it, and go, look, you know, the country obviously doesn't believe in me anymore. I care about the Labour Party. I care about whatever. I'm going to step aside. He comes out and says, we're going to reset. Next thing I see is Gordon Brown striding into bloody Downing Street, followed by Harriet Harpoon, and then he says, no, I am resetting and I'm going to rule for another 10 years. And you just look at that and go, how delusional are you, man? You're not.
I didn't even know Gordon Brown was still alive.
Brilliant.
So it was shocking to me to see him dragged back after he sold all our gold reserves off, which would now be worth 44 billion. He sold them for 2 billion at the time, but apparently that resume makes him
Hold on. Samara, we have to build up. We have a live view of the speech room. Even the flag. Look at the wonky flag. You see, that's how my... Oh, look, that's how my OCD comes out. I'm looking at that and the flag looks wonky. That would drive me absolutely nuts. I'd be sending that back. Get your head out my camera. So this is it. This is where Keir Starmer's going to stride in, probably fall over and make the speech of his life. Are you excited, Samara? Genuinely excited?
No, I'm not excited because it seems like this guy's agenda is to drive the country further and further into the ground whilst all the residents scream, no, don't do this. And unfortunately, I know it's a bleak picture to paint, but that is what's going on. I think there are some suitable contenders.
Who?
I mean, hearing that Wes Streeting is coming back, I mean, he's not amazing, but anything's better than this. The issue is,
but
though,
is it? Is it? Because this is really interesting, this debate, right? I don't think Streeting can win. I don't think he can win, and I think that means they'll lurch to the left. I'm not sticking up for Starmer. I think he's useless. But is the alternative not worse?
I think you're right, JK. The thing is, the Labour Party has been constantly told and been telling us that they need to lurch further to the left. Now, what we can see from the local elections is actually the country has lurched completely further to the right and is much more conservative. So in a way, there is definitely an argument to say that this more sort of centre ground Labour government, which hasn't been working because Keir Starmer just dithers and dathers and he doesn't know which direction he wants to go. But there is something to be said for a more centre ground Labour government and something that's less left wing like they've been parroting on about.
People are suddenly realising that the peace and quiet emanating from Ed Miliband's camp is not because he's struggling to eat his breakfast, but actually it's because he's a manipulative sod and has a big plan. But again, and I just want your take on this. I've said it all morning, and people's opinions are amazing. I don't, you might disagree, don't personally think you can be Prime Minister without a mandate from the British people. I don't think you can be an MP in defect without standing again, because if I voted for you, never know, the markets could sound out as well.
Well, Raina hasn't completed her GCSE maths, or at least that's the rumour going around. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure the markets would be jittery about someone like that in number 10. I know there's a lot to be said, and there's a whole other debate around that, because I think she's probably got a bit more political prowess than overeducated Keir Starmer. But I mean, it is the country in disarray, and unfortunately, Starmer, he needs to listen to the people and the markets. These are the two things telling him just go. But will he fall on his sword? I'm not sure. I'm really not sure.
I think he's that incompetent he'd miss. Honestly, I do. Starmer is now a Prime Minister managing the decline of this once great country from an underground bunker. The only way he will leave is via a helicopter from the roof of number 10, says Simon in Devon. Bill says, I've written his speech for him. Hello. Goodbye.
Meep, meep. Yeah.
And this is good. This is good. You love this. Martin in Lichfield. So Starmer the Dalek doesn't dream. We found that early. He doesn't dream, by the way. Robots switch off at night. He's a nightmare for all of us, that's sure. But old Zach the breast whisperer, have you heard this story? Zach Polanski has lied again. Of this about working at the Ministry of Justice. And this guy says, Martin Litchfield, and old Zach the breast whisperer has clearly seen Rachel from accounts for advice on writing his CV. You couldn't make it up, could you? Zach and Reeves, a couple of liars. That's true.
It shows you just how much they take the people of this country for fools.
Yeah.
And the fact that it is all about a power grab for them. This Westminster elite, the dinner party class that treat these people, the British people, as basically a craven vote that they can bag in order to basically prosper themselves. And that's what is really sickening about it. The more we're learning about Zach Polanski, the more it is clear that he is a useful idiot for some of the ideology that they want to trailblaze, or some people want to trailblaze in Britain. And it is really, really concerning stuff. I mean, what hasn't he lied about?
Yeah.
Genuinely. I mean, we know that he was an actor. So is he just some sort of industry plant politician? I don't know. I couldn't possibly comment on that. But what it seems like is that he is shoveling up votes from an incompetent government. And that is really, really dangerous. You know, Keir Starmer's incompetence stretches far beyond the Labour Party. It also could shift the entire sort of political diaphragm of how this country is being tilted because of what he's doing. And I think we really need to look out for that. If Zach Polanski is able to dupe the public, then anyone can.
Well, I say dupe. I mean, people have to wake up and smell the coffee. I can't believe, hand on heart, that this man commands 18% of this country. I mean, if I was an environmentalist, I mean, not a mention of sewage in the river or a tree. Not a tree hugger in sight. It's just Gaza. Morning, Jez. Chris in Western. Have you ever been to Western Supermare?
Send me out there, JK. Let's go.
No, let's not go. I used to get quite... Never mind. Starmer has a plan. He wants to implement this plan before he goes. Whether it's getting back into the EU or making his chums richer, he won't go until he's pushed. He ain't going anywhere. It would be the best birthday present ever, as I'm 60 today, says Chris in the southwest. Christ, he's younger than me as well. Samara, we're taking a quick call. Let's go to London. Nick, you're on Talk Breakfast. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. A couple of things. Firstly, it's not OCD about the flag. It is a detail.
What? Well, no. Slow down, mate. I can't hear you. What did you say?
It's not OCD about the flag not being straight. It is a necessary detail. Someone in Keir Starmer's PR team, it should be their job to make sure the stand looks as it
I completely agree. I completely agree. Yes.
I really don't like hearing Labour voices, Labour tongues saying Keir Starmer should allow Andy Burnham back into the House. It's not Keir Starmer's gift. It's in the voters' gift. And
yeah, but his gift is to... Apparently it's down to him whether he stands or not, and our argument on this show has been, if he, and certainly if you don't allow him to stand, you'll have trouble, which he's found. But perhaps more interesting is even if he did stand, there's absolutely no belief that he'd win in Manchester. Thank you so much indeed. You're a top man. Let's say good morning to Rob on Starmer. Rob, go.
Morning, Jez. You know how sad it makes me when I'm listening to these politicians after the weekend that's just happened. How much front have you got to stand there after you've had such a terrible drubbing, right? And look cameras in the eye and know there's millions of people watching and pretend, because let's be straight up and down, it's like speaking to a small child who's pretending to be Batman when he quite clearly isn't. You're lying. You've just had a drubbing because you let the country down. Both of you, the Conservative Party, had all those years, and look at the mess they took with you. The Labour Party got to watch for 14 years and didn't have one good idea or one good plan afterwards. And that's why he's where he is, because every plan he did have was a crap plan that he's had to back up on and change his mind. But to stand there and say, I was voted in and I'm going to be the man of the people and I'm going to stay. You know, if there was any decency at all in any part of his body, of course he would hang his hat up and leave. What comes next is no better mind. But then normal people can see, you know, we're not blind, deaf and dumb. We can see you. We've seen how bad you are. Have something more about you than that. You're supposed to be leaving the country, for God's sake.
Thank you, Rob. It's almost 10 o'clock. We're live across the United Kingdom. So the speech of his life is on the way. Julia will take you through that from 10 o'clock. Keir Starmer, he's going to say, we're a party of optimism. We should be closer to Europe. Well, most of the party, most of the cabinet and most of the country are going, mate, you are that unpopular, we want you to go. Keep it talk. 0344 499 1000 for your telephone calls and your voice notes, your texts on 87222. But Keir Starmer, courtesy of Julia Hartley-Brewer, the speech of his life is next. We'll see you tomorrow morning from 6. Have a great day.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.